Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chapter 3, Session number 7 of the Imris Saga Write Chess campaign. I am joined by my lovely cast. Say hello, lovely cast.
Hello, lovely cat.
Cap.
I feel like you.
I did steal that from Jack.
He did.
Blatant theft.
Yes.
We're going to
Legitimate
sue
theft.
for this.
Yeah, Jackson is
No, from me though. That's how I know that it's what Brennan does, but I'm cultivating, seeing how far I can get people to copy what I say.
But-
now.
but
Andrew's just
Jack-
like, well, I guess I'll take it.
Jack, you've never asked me to call myself lovely before. So
Yeah, but I don't encourage you to all lie. Like, I think that's unfair.
I encourage you to
But-
tell the truth.
Encouraging you to lie as well.
Space Dad wins!
Space Dad.
That's me in this case.
Yeah,
and I
that's
just
true.
went to Megamind, I'm gonna be honest.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Megamind is
I really
underrated though.
Being called Space Dad.
I can have two Space Dads.
It's
Are any
true.
of them called Space Daddy?
In my universe, Charlie.
Oh.
Well,
Do you see how much
who's
disruption
here?
that caused, Andrew?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the perfect amount, I feel.
theft always causes pain and disruption. I think that's true.
So, we took a week off last week while we had in-group discussions and stuff. But we're back, we're ready to play. And I'm excited to see everybody here. So the last session, you guys left Harkantor successfully, were able to teleport out after leaving the Blanket of Shadows and came back to Talanfagan. At which point everybody was exhausted and kind of spooked, freaked out a little bit, or just wanted a break. And so you guys, after a little bit of discussion, decide to take a full day in the city to do whatever you wanted, relax, recuperate. Some people did some shopping, namely Uba and Medea, as well as some drinking. Will mostly did some stuff by themselves most of the day. Well, Silverin and Alvaron went to the Temple of Samilus, and Alvaron decided, or perhaps he had already decided this, but resolved to become an acolyte to more formally induct himself into that church of worship. Following that, the Church of Samilus essentially threw a beach party where Alvaron's new position, low as it is, was celebrated with games, food, drinks, etc. And the entire party, as well as most of your companion NPCs, found themselves there partaking in the festivities. We ended kind of as that the day was wrapping into evening, wherein a bonfire was being held. We are going to zoom back in kind of where we left off. I meant to ask this. Charlie and Jack, did you guys want to open with Will and Silverin talking, or would you like me to circle back around to that?
I still don't know why Silverin wanted to talk to Will. So it's up to
I don't-
Charlie. 'Cause-
Circle back around because
Okay.
you know what? It's been 2
'Cause
weeks
you've
and
forgotten. And you wouldn't tell me every time I asked, and then you forgot.
Charlie is low key just gonna go back
Please.
and watch this end of the stream real
Blink
quick
into
to
the-
see if they
into
can
the chair.
remember.
Go look at the question that you asked, Sean. That might help.
So,
think it's-
in that case, we are kind of on the bonfire as it's just starting to rear up. Everybody's kind of around that. And the acolytes of the church have started to gather everybody up from their games and other festivities to kind of join them with Alvaron over by this bonfire. Alvaron, you have kind of been put into the center of attention once more as this is happening. And the head of the church, who you haven't really spoken to very much, um, walks up at this point over towards you. They say, it is an Alcar, as you are in Telefragon. They look at you and they say, Elrond, it is now the part of your induction day where we all stand around, and some of us share how we came into this service or why we wanted to join, to help remember our duties in order to honor you coming into them. And some of them go around. There's a large number of them, so I won't role play through all of them because there's like a dozen people here from the church. But you kind of get various different stories. Many of them used to be sailors, and they found themselves drawn to this god after many years on the sea, and wanting to help other sailors in various different ports. Many of them wanted to settle down, but still felt that calling and felt this was the best way to keep in tune with that. Some of them always felt very strongly connected with the sea and joined the order very young, which strikes, somewhat to your earlier memories of how you initially were going to become a member. Finally, it gets back around until everyone is looking at you and they say, Alvra, if you can, please share with us.
Alvaron looks very surprised by that for the first moment. But looking around, he's probably going to catch, I think, Solveron's eye and look at them as he's being asked to share his story, and just kind of, if there's any reaction out of Solveron, just see like how they are looking at him for the moment. Just it's a quick glance up, but
this is probably the point where it would have been long enough that I imagine Silverin would be back by now, maybe. This is the point where the camera starts to pan over, and we do see Silverin, but they're actually getting ready to talk to Will, who has walked off a bit.
Oh. All right. Well, seeing that, unless Charlie has something to add, I couldn't tell. The mic is flipping. Alvaron just kind of straightens his back and says,
Sorry. Let me clarify. I wanted to jump over to Silverin and Will.
Oh!
And
I'm
then,
sorry.
depending on what happens there, Silverin might be back where you meet their eye, or they might be gone. Yeah.
Silverin might not be alive if the conversation goes poorly enough. We just have a full magic battle over a June.
You see lights in the distance, and you think, "Oh, how nice! They arranged fireworks for this event." Really, it's Silverin full dying.
If you die
I
in the
think
beach episode, you die for real.
5 consecutive psychic anchors get cast on Silverin.
Yeah. So Silverin has probably been standing there with Will for quite some time. Not particularly rushed to speak. But eventually he does look over. My God, actually, my tone's wrong there. He kind of clears his throat, which is not usual for him. Usually he just launches into speaking and says, the particular affliction of being an adherent of Mordain is that they do not talk to you often. I just saw you roll a 1 for something.
I was checking your cough.
Okay. All right. The particular problem with being an adherent of Mordain is she does not often speak to me except for times most dire. But I do have a sense that I could begin asking questions with a hope of gaining answers. Would you like me to ask after this Vestavale of yours?
I think Will is concerned about your cough, firstly. But then when like registering what you said, says, I suspect it's probably better if I ask Syl about Vesta, but you can ask your god whatever you like, Silverin. Perhaps gods function differently. Maybe Similis is lacking in followers. You have to be someone that lives by the sea to really follow Similis. Everyone follows secrets and the night. Everyone follows death. Or finds it eventually. But who knows? You can only ask questions, right?
Eventually.
Are you feeling all right?
Silverin just like
reaches up and like touches your forehead.
Silverin just kind of like cants his head slightly, making that easier. But well enough. And yourself?
Sure. We did what we were going to do for forever.
The pause at that point is like awfully long. It's longer than usual, and he's by this point turned away to kind of stare at the sea. So we did. And at that point, he will finally take out that talisman that he collected, the only remaining thing from Kalasht, and turns it over in the moonlight and is inspecting, kind of intending to see if there's anything particular about it, if it has changed since the last time. And I meant to message this to you, Andrew, but now that I'm looking in my message box to you, I never sent it. Is that talisman something that he had known Kalash to wear back when they traveled together, or was that something new?
No, that is something that old Caro had given them, like when they were a small child, basically.
Okay, so something that he was very familiar with. So basically, he looks it over to see if there was anything new about it from the last time he'd seen it.
It does have, in your memory, it was not. It's a much older feather and perhaps not quite as well taken care of. Not that it wasn't taken care of well, but it was just very, very old. This one that you hold in your hand has much more luster and kind of shimmer to it, with the hint of more magical power within. I did message you what that did, right? No? Okay, I wrote it down. Let me find it. I'll message
Yeah.
you. I think you never identified it. That's why. But yes.
Well, at least we achieved slightly more than just saving Toralus. If you find that I have ever been taken over by some kind of malevolent force using my heroic capabilities against you, you can just have Medea strike me down. You don't have to go to that effort.
Silverin looks back towards where the bonfire roars, and where Medea is presumably either fighting something to bring to the fire or drinking with the rest of them. That would be an interesting fight to watch. Perhaps to lay wagers upon.
Sure, I'm giving you the benefit of I've been incapacitated already. Otherwise, I'd probably, if I were an evil entity that had taken over my form, I'd probably kill Kojin first.
The distraction that it would cause Uba and the rest of us, therefore ensuring your win.
Sure, and then you kill Alvaron, and you rip out both hearts, and what's left? Even if then I was to fail, I'd taken something permanent. Not that I think about this that often.
Of course, I would never imagine that you'd put any thought into it at all.
She smiles, and she also looks back at the bonfire, and says, "Gods are strange. They have such agency in some ways and such lack of agency in other ways, and we're stuck not knowing when we can rely on them, in which moments they will deem. Maybe they deem the moment worthy, rather than the person involved."
I would believe that. I feel that it is less about my desire for a god's intervention and more about the moments that I have found myself in.
Maybe your god knows that you don't need the hand on the rudder that perhaps Semillus needs with Alvaron.
Or, as you say, the gods are somewhat limited to their domains. Mordain is not called the god of life, nor of help, nor of mercy, except for the mercy that we find through death.
You have chosen a particularly fickle one, and I say that as a worshipper of Syl. Death, we find, is less permanent and less binding than perhaps I thought it was some months ago.
True, but I have only grown into this power when it is perhaps too late to help me in the ways I would have wanted it to. But did you choose Syl?
Sure. The same way that anyone that does not have a direct connection to a god chooses anything. I liked Vera because the Gathites on the ship worshipped Vera. But it seems unfitting now. I have a question for you. Do you think that since Semillus takes such an interest in Alvaron, I could send to Semillus and find him on this plane?
I don't. Silverin stops and just is very quiet again. I have been known to take a casual tone about the gods, but I do not know that I would dare to send to them.
You need to think with the mind and heart of a hero rather than that of a cleric. But Will does not start sending to a god, despite that.
Silverin
She
is watching her warily.
looks back and says, I don't think that that's the god I'd want to talk to anyway.
I think it will be interesting to watch him.
It's interesting to watch all of you. Anyway, the party seems to be shifting gears. Will says that in a tone that is the closest to you being dismissed from a conversation Will has ever said.
Yeah. Silverin just watches her for a long moment. Thank you. I hope
She,
that
go ahead.
I hope the help that I offer you will be as valuable, but perhaps not the same kind. And he seems to like. Normally, he does finish his thoughts, but much like it's the first time that it seems like Will has kind of dismissed him from a conversation, it also seems like the first time that he leaves something that he's thinking just completely unsaid, before dipping his head and heading away.
Will sits down and will stay separated from the party for a little bit, but still probably head back midway through everybody talking about how they joined the church. I will, when Silverin's not there, try and send to Samilas. I think the sending is probably. I've recently been told it might be improper, but for experimentation purposes, I wanted to extend my thanks for watching over my crewmate and friend. I'll expend that spell slot just in case this priest does turn into a kraken. Sure. Is this one that low is good or high is good? Low is bad. I get turned into a kraken.
Actually, just get turned into a crack if you roll a 1.
Sure. I choose to interpret that as Syl responding to my sending, because that's cryptic and weird. But yeah, I'll head back eventually.
And I'm assuming in this case that Silverin did hear a little bit about what was going on. Yeah. So Silverin just looks at Alvaron, then slightly leans back. He's taken up like his usual pose where he will sit and sprawl out, taking up as much space as his very long limbs will account for. Just slowly sprawls out and laces his fingers and puts them against like over his chest. And if Alvaron, keeps that stare up for a moment, he just very slightly lifts his hand up and go on.
That Alvaron is going to stand a little straighter and the chest puffs out a little bit. And when I was 14, I was offered the chance to stand here on this beach with you and to take this first step. And I was sent on my acolyte's journey, the first trip onto the seas, to make sure that I was committed, to make sure that I was ready. My ship was waylaid by the blackened skies. I chose, rather than death, to serve aboard a ship that directly contravenes everything that this church stood for. And they made me first sword. And for some reason, I was not allowed to die. I have sunk the blackened skies. with the help of good friends that I have made since I escaped. I have killed the captain, who was the bane of everything that I stand for. And now, with powers I do not understand, and with a purpose I do not yet know how to claim, I seek to complete what the 14-year-old boy could not. And I seek to finish what he did not know how to start. With that, I'm going to lock eyes with the head of the order, who had been speaking before, and for those watching, Alvaron's eyes probably have shifted from a normal muted seafoam green and have gone to blazing, almost, with the greenish light that you get of a setting sun dipping just below the horizon of the sea.
Delmar. I like it. It's like it's very of the sea sounding. Like yeah. Yeah. No, it's a good name.
Almost certainly you made a bad name. It wasn't this one. So I can ask you to stop irritating me.
When she says that, I just look at her and laugh and say, "Don't worry, I still plan to come to you for advice." Alvaron, damn, kind of looks around at the beach and at the sea, and I don't know yet. I know my friends and I have been hunting things lately. Things that hunt in the dark. Things that should not be. And I know the old stories. That which lives beneath the waves, and I need to find out more. But I think there are things in the sea, like the things we've found beneath the earth and hiding in the sands. They need to die. I
Olvera
need
just
to know more, though.
very slightly, but visibly, like raises his glass at Alvaron.
Raise the flask of grog that Alvaron has right back at him. And a one-handed embrace on Anna, and thank you. And then Alvaron is definitely stumbling, not walking, stumbling over towards the group.
What's the correct honorific to refer to a member of the clergy?
Can I make one as well?
No, Acolyte is fine. Acolyte Alvaron?
Will?
Will inclines her head and says, I've been considering Willow instead of Will, but for now, yes. Did you have fun?
I feel like it did something that I've needed to do for a long time, but something that I haven't been able to do until tonight. Fun. I enjoyed myself. If you won't mind, once this has worn off, he says, shaking the rum, and we have a chance with downtime, I have questions that require a library, and I think you might be the person who could help me out the best with that.
Sure, I am adept at helping people in libraries.
With that, do you have a drink in your hand at this point?
No, Will is oddly not drinking.
Oh boy.
Hasn't drunk for ages, probably.
Gotcha. Is that something like would have noticed and would know not to offer you a drink, or?
I think historically Will doesn't drink when she considers herself to be working.
Gotcha. And
Is
tonight
the,
being
like,
no
the
exception.
normal disconnection. She
Okay.
she kind of like cracks her neck and stuff, and where for the past few weeks it probably has been cracking every time she's tried to release that tension. She spent like a lot of time in a bath today, and it just does nothing. She says, well, as nice as this beach in the middle of a desert is, sand does tend to get all over. And she like is still wearing her full dress and just like flares out the ruffle of the bottom a little bit, and just sand dusts off her dress. So we could move this somewhere slightly more comfortable.
I think that's not the worst idea. Look at everyone else. If anyone has any objection to leaving the beach, though I don't imagine anyone would. We'll definitely grab another, like, if there's another flask of rum sitting somewhere as we're walking out, just grab it and stow it somewhere in my armor.
Like
I
that.
think Will falls in next to Uber as they kind of wander somewhere else and says, see, the problem with the beach is that I either want to be 1,000 feet that way, and she points towards the ocean, or 300 feet that way, and she points towards the city. It's like the worst in between.
Uba is walking along and like kind of clanging slightly. Their hands are full of like seashells and shiny stones and stuff, and they say, I don't know, I don't think it's that bad, but I do admit sometimes the city is a bit more lively. I had fun at the party though, and then they kind of reshuffle their seashells to hold them better.
Will appraises the seashells and shiny stones and says, but if you pick up a shiny stone in a city or at the bottom of the ocean, it's probably more valuable than your shells. Although that one's nice. She points at like a full shell that hasn't cracked at all.
I think Uba says sometimes you need to just enjoy things for how they make you feel and not necessarily their value. And then immediately just continues
Will
walking.
just keeps looking at you for like so long, trying to work out if you've been replaced by something.
That's such an incredible quote. Jesus.
Will's like, man, I talked to Silverin a lot about this stuff, and then just talked to Uber for like 30 seconds and Uber kicks my worldview in a different direction.
It was just happy, like their tails wagging a little bit. They ready to go back to the city?
Melf will say, well, you have a palace that you can always go back to, but my rooms are yours, as always. I will be retiring.
Oh, well, you are about that age. I wish you well.
Shrugs. Well, I'm already retired in that way, but I meant the more going to bed.
Medea nods as if that was intended.
Yeah, I think Will is on board with availing themselves once more of Melf's Tower. There's less requirements on them there.
By this point in time, now that you guys were leaving, Ort has sauntered off somewhere. Who knows? Probably back to go to a tavern somewhere.
To a second beach party.
Yeah,
we walk over to June and there's an identical beach party somewhere else, but it's for like for Mira, because the beach is the closest thing to like. For some reason, they do it there.
There's a completely separate group of strange adventurers he's partying with.
A separate group member that has just been promoted to an acolyte of a slightly different sea god.
There's a still cleric there.
This is just another weekend.
Well, it's night.
For Ort. Toralis will let you know. He says, I do have a residence in the city. I'll be there, but if you are going to Melf's, I'll swing by in the morning. However, Kala and Kella are going wherever Will goes.
Sure. I think Will nods at Toralis and kind of looks like she was going to ask something and then decides that the next morning is fine.
Okay.
She goes, all right. Also, Melf has coffee, which a benefit. Not for you, Kella.
Right. Well, unless somebody wanted to say something else on your walk back, you will eventually find yourself back in Melf's Tower. Going to bed for the night, taking up your various different rooms. Melf, true to his word, heads off to bed right away. I think Kella, despite protests otherwise, does fall asleep quite quickly. As they're still
Kella's doing that thing when she's like, I'm not tired, as she falls asleep.
Yeah. I think they fall asleep like on a couch and somebody just drapes a blanket. Maybe Will, maybe Kella.
Yeah. I was going to say I'll pick her up. I don't think Will can pick up a 10-year-old.
What's your strength? No. 6? No, not at all. Do you all bed down for the night? Off to dreams, whichever ones might find you here in the night. Yes.
I will say a prayer to Syl. Like, Will has been praying to Syl most nights, but this will be like a prayer of like finality in the closing of that chapter, like a prayer thanking Syl for the aid in solving that riddle of saving Toralis.
Say a quick prayer to Syl. Maybe looking up at the moon as you do so.
Actually looking down at the ocarina of Syl.
The ocarina is reflected in the moonlight. And you guys rest for the night. You will wake up the next morning. Some of you significantly later than others, I think. But, by the time that it's starting to get around brunch time, everybody has woken up and found themselves in Melf's lounge. Coffee has been prepared, both in the pot and espresso variety, for all you hungover adventurers. And Kella is awake, kind of reading a book by the time anybody gets out there. They seem to have woken up quite early in the morning, finding themselves in this lounge, and just picked a random book to start perusing. Melf, of course, is there. He's sitting on the lounge, kind of just hanging out, waiting. And I think Torlus arrives after Will and maybe Silverian are up, but before the rest of you fully awake.
If there's a time period when it's just like the casters and Keller, Will is like very happy for Keller to, when Keller shows the initiative to like pick up a book and choose to read it. Will's like, okay, that's your lesson for today, to be like, you read what you want to read and that's fine. Like, I'm not in charge of your entire education. Like, you have your own interests. But does decide to probably, before leaving the city, go to a bookstore and buy a lot of like diverse books to put in the bag of holding. But says to particularly Torlus and Melf,
I think
absolutely in no way.
if it matters, Kala is still asleep as well, but by this time.
No, Will wants to talk to like the head of that magic tree.
Yeah,
Not-
that's what I
Not a
figured.
lesser offshoot.
I just figured I'd mention it just in case.
But Will like starts asking them about the astral plane and stuff that interacts with it, and starts to talk to them about the idea she had forever ago, which I messaged you about.
Ramona, were you going to say something?
I think Medea at this point is probably going. I don't imagine it's that hard to ask for the day to use the teleportation circle to head to like Roms or a major city, right?
It's definitely doable if that's something that you want to do. The Suthanum. They might not have a caster available right when you ask, but it's something you could do during the day.
Yeah, they'd. I think Medea is like making preparations because they're on ahead to the library and Roms for the day.
Okay. That's definitely something probably like more of an afternoon type thing. So
Head to the library and see the market. They'd send out a messenger to see if anybody else wants to go there, but otherwise leave it be.
Okay. Will they're happy to kind of chat with you. Torlus will say we'll probably be talking about this later as well, but yes, the astral sea, as many people call it, is a plane of existence that even more so than say the elemental planes or others overlaps with ours. Some people think it's the source of the arcane, but that's never really definitively been shown. So other theories abound, of course. There are many strange things about it. Was there something in particular you wanted to know? I mean, time flows differently in some pockets of it. You
Exactly.
can. Yes.
What if I devised a spell that would give me more time versus less time passing on our plane, to move myself somewhere in the astral plane that was relatively safe, but where time moved much, much quicker if I needed to study something rapidly.
Melf like starts to say something, but then glances at Dorlus like, "You're probably better for this one. Like you take it."
I've been giving these bozos information for 10 levels.
Yeah, it's your turn. Like, get out of here. Dorlus says, such spells. There are chronomancy spells that I know of that can replicate similar effects. I think I might have read about somebody using the natural properties of the astral sea to enhance their own spellcasting capabilities in such areas, but I've never attempted it myself. I certainly would say it's possible.
Will nods, and kind of hears that as possible means doable and something that she will continue to look into further.
I think
and she's like scribbling down notes on her spell book, really like offensively, just in charcoal on her spell cloth.
He'll add somewhere. He'll say, it also depends on how long you want the effect to propagate for, and how compressed real time is compared to your space. Twice as fast is fairly doable for a short period of time. I could probably devise a spell given a few days, but maybe say 10 times the flow rate for a month would take a longer amounts of preparation. Though, again, if you use the Astral Sea to aid this in some way, there are natural pockets which have similar effects. It could be significantly easier.
Will nods. Is like writing this down. It's like 2 times easy, and then on her notes she's like, but 2 times speed is not that beneficial. Like 2 weeks in the space of 1 week, crosses out. And then when he says 10 times, she's already writing down like 10 weeks in the space of 1 week. It's like, that's, you get actual stuff done if you have 10 times the time. But yeah, she's writing everything down, and she like can already feel, particularly the arcane part of her brain, like firing ideas, and like different parts of her magical energies are like, it's like the closest thing to like an intoxication that Will gets when not drinking. Like this arcane stuff, everything is like, all right, well, what about this magic? Well, what about if like it's a supplement of this school from wizardry plus this spell from bardistry, like teleportation circle, but then also another thing, and she's thinking about all of this stuff as she's jotting it down, and she like starts to write even faster, and it's just like, it's been a while since she's had like a teacher for something, and she's like taking this moment of being taught something by Taurus to enjoy it again. But it will probably take until other people show up.
Okay. Silverian, you show up probably not that much later, along with Kala. Medea and Uba, you awaken as well to kind of join this. You all, so Medea, do you just go straight to, like, you send out this information, or do you like tell people?
Yeah, Medea will tell people as they're leaving for the day what they're doing, that they're planning to go see the market in Roms and go to the library to pick up some books. Because now that they've done some other stuff, they want to get back into like learning the language of demons, Infernal, figuring out more about that. Seeing if there's anything to be gleaned from that.
Charles will say, I can cast the spells to teleport now that I have my book. I'll go with you. I have more things in ROMs that I can, well, depending on how intact my tower is.
That would be appreciated. If there is something in the tower, I'd be happy to act as a secondary guard.
I should be able to handle it. I imagine that they've taken what they wanted and left. If anybody else wants to join us, I will return in time to meet with the Suthana, but...
Sure. I haven't been in Rams for a while. My ship might be there. She like thinks about how long it's been, what their general paths were, puts together some maths, and is like, no, they're probably not. Like up near in the Lamont Sea. She shrugs.
You wanted them to come around, right? Like forever ago?
No, I asked them if they had information about something that no longer is relevant, and that I didn't send back to them at any point.
Okay. I remember we had talked
stuff
about
happened.
it. Okay.
I did tell Alvaron that if Alvaron ever needed a ship, I would get my ship. but Alvaron has found other means of ship.
Okay.
Achieved ship in other ways.
But if you and I team up, we have 2 ship.
Double the ship.
Sure, I don't own my ship, but
1 ship, 2 ship.
1 ship, 2 ship, 3 ship, blue ship. No.
Also, my ship is not a pirate hunting ship. It's like
Uh,
a commercial liner.
Thorless will wait a beat to see if anybody else is going to take up that offer before, heading over towards the palace where the teleportation circle is.
I think that Uba like wants to go, at least to see what Roms is like, but they're like a shade of green after partying too hard. So I think they're gonna stay back and drink coffee.
Lazy day with Kella. Okay.
Yeah, Will
Um,
puts 2 other books next to Keller, and that's like her education for the day. Will picks 2 books,
There you go.
but when Keller's bored of that one, she has to start looking at it.
Sean.
when Alvaron comes to I want to say the breakfast table, but I know it's more the coffee table.
Yeah.
He has a little notepad with him, and he has a half-written letter that he is kind of blearily. There are scratch outs in the letter that you can see, and it looks like that was kind of the draft, and he's now writing at the coffee table the more proper letter. And based on that con save, he's not hungover, but he is like a little gritty, and the coffee is most welcome, judging by the fact that he downs the first one and gets the second one right away and starts to drink that at a normal speed. But he's just kind of writing on this sheet and kind of copying over from the draft sheet is what it looks like. And that's just kind of noticing what everyone else is doing, but not involving himself particularly at this point.
Assuming that I know where this letter is going, I think your ears would pick up when everybody's saying they're going to Roms, because that would be, if you dropped it off there, it would get to its destination much quicker.
Gotcha. Then at that point, he does raise and say, if I could just... Actually, Melf, could I trouble you? Could I borrow one of your seals to enclose this? This letter needs to get to Menden, and I feel like with one of your seals, it might arrive there more intact, to put it politely.
Sure, I don't send many letters, but I'll dig around in the box and pull out some wax and some seals and stuff. When I do find the occasion for formal purposes, you're welcome to use it. I can also, if you like, sending messages is simple enough.
This needs to arrive in my own hand, but if you have a way for it to... And he pauses for a moment and says, actually, I appreciate it, but this letter needs to arrive by sea. I thank you, though.
I understand. Feel free to use my seals.
Alvaron takes whatever one is offered and finishes inscribing the letter and then folds it up. Not quite origami style with the folding, but kind of folds it into itself.
Yeah.
And
so it's really hard to open unless you're like,
yeah,
and make it not obvious that you've opened it.
Exactly. Seals it with
Color.
Melf's seal.
Wax.
Melf has purple wax.
Will,
He's
before
probably
you
got a
seal-
couple different colors actually, but like the one he hands Alvaron is purple.
I'm making
Before
notes of
you
that.
seal it, Will kind of digs into her bag of holding and pulls out a thing I've had since level 3, which is sealing wax, but it is ocean colored. If you would prefer.
Actually,
See the nature of Will.
so just for above board purposes, so everyone knows, I did actually write this letter a week and a half ago, and I sent it to Andrew. So, and it was
Hopefully
sealed
it comes soon.
with sea-colored wax,
Oh,
actually. So
there
that
you
is
go.
perfect from Will.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, I have sealing wax. I've had that since I was a sea captain. It can be ocean colored.
I will
Yeah, Will
respectfully borrow that, put it, and then as Will hands me that, just kind of look at her and it's to my parents. It needs to arrive by sea, since that's how I left. And
nods.
pushes the seal in. And you said to Roms today. That might be, if you don't mind, I'll come along. That might be the quickest way to get this home.
Or I can handle one. That's I started talking as mouth. Sure, I can handle one more.
By the way Alvaron is saying this, he's like, I know that there is the ability. I know that there is the ability if we needed to we can just teleport into Mendon. Yeah, we can do that. We have teleportation circles or the ability. No, this this letter needs to get there a certain way. And magic would kind of contravene, I think, yeah. So that's Alvaron's thought process on this.
Also, Mendon doesn't have magic. That place is a backwater. There's no
Uh,
teleportation circles. They can't draw a circle.
It might have a teleportation circle, but I don't know if anybody present would know it.
Who wants to willingly go to Mendon? It's like the middle of nowhere.
Why do you think I got on a fucking ship, Will?
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck out of
But I'm
there.
just saying, we don't know how to get there. Just like Twinport has a teleportation circle, but it's surrounded by thugs. And if you teleport in there, you get mugged immediately.
Instant mug. All right. Well, then, an impromptu trip to Roms is suddenly formed. Silverin, what are you going to be doing while everybody else? Silverin and Uba, what are you guys doing while everybody else is getting fucked off?
I think Silverin, who normally anytime like Uba and him are alone together, will happily follow along to shopping or suggest that they go pray. Just sits there aimlessly with Uba for some time, like drinking another cup of coffee.
I think that is Silverin like actively making suggestions on where to go, or just like awkwardly sitting there?
I mean, it's not awkward. Silverin is perfectly comfortable, like idly staring at Uba while he drinks his coffee in like these tiny cups in his massive hands. But I have ideas if you don't, but
yeah, I think that Uba honestly is probably just gonna lay there, maybe with like, I don't know. I feel like ice would be really hard to get here, but some sort of like cooling pack on their forehead, and is kind of like moaning and groaning about how hungover they are. But yeah, if Silverin has an idea, then Uba will probably tag along.
oh, that's perfect. So Silverin watches Uba like moan and groan, and gives them like quite some time to get it out of their system. But then slowly begins to like clatter around, instead of just moving quietly from place to place. Just like too heavily sets down his cup, adjusts a chair too loudly with a bit of a scrape. Perhaps before you indulge like that again, we should seek to expand your repertoire from poisons and the imbibing thereof to the curing.
I think you hear like under the breath muttering from Uba, but then Uba kind of sighs and says, "All right, what did you have in mind? But hopefully it won't be too much work."
Well, perhaps we tour the library, or there are gardens here with many healing herbs. Or we could visit the marketplace, though it might not be a comforting environment for one in your condition.
I think Uba says maybe a stroll in the garden wouldn't be too bad. And kind of like nods over towards Kella and says, "Should we bring the little one with us?"
I at this
Are
point
they still
have
here?
others. Yeah, I think the others haven't left.
Okay.
I don't know. Kella's fine reading. That's can be her day's education. She still has work to do every day. Not every day can be adventuring around gallivanting with people. Sometimes you just have to read.
Uba nods and says, "All right, then I guess our search for herbs will begin."
And so Silverin will just kind of meander their way over to the gardens. Probably like looking to see if there's anything like in the city that he hasn't like searched through. And show Uba what he knows of healing herbs, and also like looking up from that book that he still has of Melf's.
Are we
So.
going to like that fancy like public garden that's in Talamphagon?
Can I do some kind of roll to find out if we find some other gardens, either from communicating with Melf or various people, or just searching?
So I mean, you could just search. There's really only gardens that you have access to. There's 4. The one which Uba mentioned, which is in the merchant's quarters, which you've been to before. There's a garden that surrounds Sarsaranid, or the Arcane Quarter, which is where all the or most of the mages hang out. It's the school until I've gone for the Arcane. You could go to the Suthana's garden, and there's one other small garden that you probably wouldn't know of.
Okay.
But equally, you could head outside the city and just try to find stuff.
Yeah, Silverin will offer up the thought of the Sultana's garden, and the exploring in the outlying areas of the city to Uba.
I think Uba likes the idea of relatively quiet palace and also the opulence of the palace in general. So I think Uba's going to say, perhaps we could visit the palace garden. They might have unique plants there. I'm not sure. And also, question: does protection from poison, would that get rid of a hangover?
We've determined
No,
that
but
it
Medea has
doesn't.
specifically cured Uba's hangover before with lay on hands.
Yes.
That's true.
I remember
That's
that.
true.
If Uba asks, Medea will.
Yeah, I don't think that Uba is in a headspace to actually remember that, so I'll say that Uba's just gonna
Okay.
suffer along. But yeah,
Meanwhile, Silverin has lesser restoration and doesn't even offer.
it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
You need lesser, drink more water. Lesser hydration.
So yeah, that's what they wander off doing. I'm fine with us switching to the other. We can do rolls for who we talk to and what we find.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, in that case, the party kind of splits. Most of you are heading off to Roms, while a couple of you are staying behind to explore around Tonophin a little bit. It is pretty easy affair. You guys head to the palace. Your known site there. They give you access to the teleportation circle. They'll pause for a moment to message the teleportation circle in ROMs and make sure that they're okay to send you guys over, which takes a couple minutes, and you find yourselves stuck through time and space, transported thousands of miles distant off to the west. Go ahead and move to the map as well.
Did Tarlis pay us?
Yeah, he gave you the money that morning. If you haven't marked it down yet properly, mark it down. And thank you for reminding me. I know I've mentioned it twice now.
Can you remind us of the amount? I do apologize.
Yeah, it's 7,500 gold, 5,000 gems.
Can we ask him to just convert it to gold?
He doesn't have that much gold. In town.
Okay.
He can probably go get some if you guys are heading to Rom's anyways. That's part of the reason why he gave you some of it in gems. It's just a lot of gold.
Yeah, that's fair.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, and I do want to make sure that is individual, correct?
Yes, each.
Is Ubu willing to swap the gold for gems? Or 5,000 gold for 5,000 gems for 5,000 gold?
Does Uba have the cash to cover?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
So,
Will is
Math.
deeply offended that you undercut her price by such a percentage. Like, as a former quartermaster and trader, that is the biggest insult that someone's in this party's ever said to Will.
also, Uba has almost 20,000 gold worth of gems right now.
This is a fact.
Will's like, this fucking Celestari bullshit.
Andrew, can on our way down to the, I guess actually at the palace, I could probably ask for a master servant to do this. But I'll very quickly, the 5,000 gems worth of value. I'll flag down a master servant, preferably one that I'm familiar with and know, but one that works with the dock masters, and quickly explain I want this to be applied to the Pale Dawn. I want this to be applied to her docking fees going forward, paying for crew salaries, and of course, an appropriate percentage as a tip to this master servant in order to pay for them doing this and to ensure that it gets executed faithfully. But take that entire amount, apply it to the Pale Dawn, her maintenance, her docking fees, her functioning, and to make sure that the crew is taken care of as they continue their privateering in the coast.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that probably pays you up for like the next few months at least, for all that kind of stuff. Wages, docking fees, supplies, etc.
yeah,
So they can kind of
I figure the ship is mostly self-sufficient with its privateering mission, but
Yeah.
I want to make sure that it's, and also have that be, for the what's the word for it? Not boatswain. The
Bosun?
whoever the senior enlisted who's running things at the moment. Make sure that they know that they're taken care of, that I haven't forgotten about them while I'm port side, and just making sure. So have that value be applied. I'll just take the cash value that I was given, but all the gems be applied to that mission for me.
All right, yeah, that's easy enough to do. They'll go and do that for you real quick. So you find yourselves, and I just have the map open so you can see all the way over here in Rom's, way at the other edge of the map. And for many of you, this is your first time ever coming into the city. So you find yourselves teleported into a it seems like a building built for this purpose. It's large with stone columns here and there. There's people walking about. There's an attendant who thanks you for coming. A small gnomish woman, and hopes that you enjoy your stay in Rom's. You exit, finding yourself. Yes.
Can I take a minute to memorize the sigil?
Sure.
Okay,
Some
I do
time
that.
studying it. This appears, you can write in your notes because ROM says multiple, and you might find another one. This is the one that goes to the Lyceum. This is the Lyceum sigil.
And have notes. I'm gonna get a book for this. I haven't pulled out this book for like 13 sessions. Lyceum. This is not the right.
Yeah, the public Lyceum one, technically, because the Lyceum has multiple as well.
The public Lyceum. That's Elsa's book. That's
Yeah.
not useful. I'll find it.
But that's easy enough. They don't even find that unusual. Lots of people do it, although not everybody can cast the spell. But plenty of people take it down just for future use, in hopes that they'll eventually be able to master that magic. But you find yourself in the Imperial City. There is, as I mentioned, you guys are kind of, as you're exiting, you're in the courtyard that makes up kind of the like the quad essentially of the Lyceum. So long patches of green grass here and there, lots of fountains nearby. And they kind of all lead towards this absolutely huge building, tower, really, that known as the Lyceum, where many people go to study magic. Probably considered certainly the biggest and often considered the foremost place to study the arcane. But across the river, you also see this absolutely massive, bigger than Talonfagon. You've been to Twinport. They're pretty similarly sized, but this is clearly a much nicer city. It's not like Twinport is sprawling and kind of, it's big. There's lots of people, but it's not that nice. Rom's, for the most part, is really, really nice. There's functioning walls. You see aqueducts bringing in fresh water. There's a busy port, and all kinds of landmarks. Giant domes dot the landscape and everything. And there's plenty of places to shop if it's indeed what you're wanting to do. Torless will just say, unless you'd like me to accompany you, I'll be back waiting for you in a few hours. We'll say 5 or 6. 6 hours.
I intended to spend my money, but I was going to look through some of the libraries in ROMs, perhaps. Do you know if you could get me access to some of the more restricted sections, like investigating a few taboo topics? Demon summonings, the reactions on the landscape, signs of them.
That's doable. He'll reach out and pull out a small disc token that's attached to like a little lanyard type deal. I'll hand it to you. That's my seal. If you show it to the most of the people at the Lyceum, they'll be able to grant you aid. Perhaps not the highest restricted sections, but at least places where most people wouldn't be able to go into.
Alvaron, when you say that, Medea just kind of perks up. And Medea, I don't know how much you know about what I'm starting to look into, but that sounds like that would be a worthwhile spending of my time as well while we're here. Do you mind if we take a quick diversion to the docks? I'll buy you a drink, and then we could continue on to the library and mutually benefit from what that buys us.
Yes, I'm happy to take the diversion with you, Alvaron.
I thank you.
Torless will also point out the library to you, because it's not that far from where you're currently standing, and also gesture vaguely at the docks, not really knowing where at the docks you want to go to.
It's okay. I have a bar in mind.
Will was going to say, I can show you the docks and rams, but if you have a bar in mind, Will doesn't need to go for that and doesn't want to go to a library for 6 hours.
I mean, Andrew, if you'll permit me to world build for a moment, a place essentially. You ever been to a bar that has drains in the floors?
I don't think so. Maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, well, there are certain bars where they put drains in the floors, and it's because sometimes they need to wash the blood off the floor, and it's a lot easier if there's a drain in the floor. In Rom's, there was only one bar he was allowed to go to when he was on the Blackened Skies, and that's the name of the bar he remembers. Blood or Vomit. Charlie is correct.
Blood or
but
is that the name of the bar?
Probably not. probably something like horrifyingly innocuous, like the Mermaid's Tail or some shit like that. But a place like that has that reputation, but I know for a fact that someone docking there is going to be going up to Mendon, and I need to hand this letter off. So,
Okay.
if you're comfortable with that place being called the Mermaid's Tail, that's
That's
like that's the bar I know for us to go to, and probably that's where Alvaron would be like, oh yeah, we'll just take a quick trip down to the docks. I need to hand this letter off and make sure it gets delivered, and then we'll head back up to the library. No problem. And Alvaron is just like, oh yeah, I've been to this bar a bunch of times. There was no problem the last time I was there.
Will, what did you want to do?
Well, neither going to. Does Elrond say the name of the bar?
Yeah, Mermaid's Tail.
Yeah, there's
Been
like
there
a
a few-
visible. There's a visible like look on Will's face of like, oh, that's where people go to die. Okay, I'm not going there. She's like, well, I didn't really come here to drink in dive bars. At least this time. I have some things to do. I'll send to one of you when I'm free, and I'll come to the library and help you look through whatever you're looking through. But as she steps out into the Lyceum, she just like starts flying up into the sky.
And there,
She rams quite a few times.
as in basically any other places would be something that people would like stop and be like, oh look, everybody's just nobody cares.
The Lyceum's like, oh, a magic user.
Yeah,
in
another
the heart
person
of magic
flying.
for Imris.
Cool.
Anywhere
Yeah.
else in Imris, it's a bird, it's a plane. Here, it's just another fucker with a
I
spell
hope they
slot.
don't drop anything, man.
But yeah, I'm gonna go to the market and go shopping.
There's actually even like a couple griffins like flying about with riders.
Will doesn't know the airspace travel laws in Rams because he's never had to learn them. So like, fly
You have to have-
close to a griffin.
In ROMs in the future, you have to get a sending stone, like whenever you're flying and communicate to an ATC.
Yeah, there probably are like rules, but they're very informal.
Yeah.
Like if your person stay below this height, like higher than that
Don't
is
scare the griffins.
is for the griffins and like other kinds of bigger creatures. But you fly off. Torless disappears, goes off somewhere.
The two full casters just spell away.
Yeah, they spell away. Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Why don't we start with Will?
Sure. I want to do two things, but there might be a third thing if I can think of it during the first two.
Sure.
I want to get a bag of holding, but more like an actual backpack or satchel bag that you would carry as an adventurer. So like a bigger sized bag that would replace like the adventurer's kit that you would carry or whatever. And Will thought that a ram's cut bag is probably nicer than for her purposes than a Deland Forgotten cut one.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing you can find pretty easily. I don't know how many times Will has been here or how familiar they are with it. Do you have like?
I think a lot.
Okay. Do you have?
This is the end of a lot of those trade routes, right? And that's where
Yeah.
she traveled.
It's the end and start of a lot of trade routes.
Yeah. So like every single trip she made over the 18 years that she was on a ship ended at Rams. So like she's been here a lot.
Okay. I think you would know then that you could buy that here at the everybody kind of calls it the Lyceum, but technically this general district is called Arsandil's Town. You could certainly find that here, but it would be pricier because this is where all of the mages.
She's like, I'm going to go to where it's going to be maybe a better cut in terms of like the leather work, because she wants that bit to be like that will last forever. And then the enchantment is like an almost secondary thing on it.
Okay. You probably head to what is colloquially just referred to as the Forum, but you know it's not Mithran's. The Forum of the Three Emperors. That's what it is. Its proper name. You head down there to go and find a store. Go ahead. Just make me an investigation check. It's not hard to find, but you could find a nicer shop, better price, that kind of thing, depending on how you roll.
Do 16.
Okay, not bad.
Forget we're level 10 characters. I'm like, oh, only +8.
You find yourself at the Forum. It's this large. It's basically a mall. We would recognize it as being a very, very nice, very, very large mall. So there are parts where it is fully covered. There are parts where it is open air, but there's shops everywhere. Places to eat, places to buy things, etc. You find yourself at a gnomish shop, which is called Taro's Goods, Taro. Yes. Entering in, there's all sorts of carpets, bags, like lots of leather and cloth goods. But based off of the signage, there's certain kind of signage rules that this is an enchanted shop. This is where you go if you want magic stuff of that nature. Taro is a gnomish man, a little bit older, maybe a couple hundred years or so. And they're dealing with some customers, but you do you have a color preference on this bag? Because they have a selection.
Yes, I would prefer to be the darkest brown before black.
Okay, it's like really.
Yeah, like in the right light, it looks like it's black, but it is technically not black.
After a moment, Taro seems to seal this deal with a little person, and they notice you and they say, "Hello, how can I help you? You looking at one of our bags today?"
Yes, I was interested in this bag. Very fetching.
These ones are nice. They're much. They can hold a lot more than a bag of holding, which is greatly appreciated by most people. And of course, they come in all these colors. And it actually has multiple pouches. So, and I'll show you. The big pouch holds the most, but there's these two side pouches here, and those are both holding pouches as well.
We'll nod since it's well, it's exactly what I'm looking for. What's your price? I've seen some other similar bags. I was over in the Lyceum earlier, and I've been shopping for most of the day.
He'll say, well, I'll tell you, the Lyceum people, they like to rip you off. I mean, the magic's good, but the quality of workmanship, they kind of just take whatever they can get and enchant it. These are real specialty items. The normal going rate, and he'll tap on a tag, is 2,500.
Will nods and really thinks about how much she will ever care about coming back here and fostering a relationship with this guy that she needs to haggle really hard the first time. And she looks at the tag, and there's a moment where I think it's clear to him that she's about to go into haggle for her life mode, and she just sighs and reaches down into her bag of holding. No, not her bag of holding, because you can't put gems in there and reliably get it back out. Into her her coat, and she pulls out the bag of 5,000 gems, or gold worth of gems, and we'll start counting out 2,500 gold worth of gems. And I suppose, since now I have time to vamp, she'll also start talking to Taro about like potentially. It's a good thing to do. I got it. But when Andrew is back, I have the next thing that she's going to do. She also asks how much it would cost to get embellished on the inner lining of like if it's a satchel with like the fold up front.
Yeah, exactly.
How much it would cost to get Calandra's full name emblazoned on the inside.
Well, that depends. You just want stitch, or do you want like I could enchant it to magically burn, nice effect. That would only be extra 250. If you just want stitching, I could do that pretty easy. 20 gold.
How long would it take for the enchantment?
I could have it done if it's a rush thing. You're leaving today. I could have it done today. It'll be a little bit extra. We'll say 300 instead of 250.
Sure. And Will counts out 2,800 in gems. And we'll ask, are gems fine?
I take gems. Yep.
Great, excellent. And I'll add an extra like 50 in gems for his help and the quality of the bag, and because I don't like carrying gems as currency.
Okay. I'll say it should be done in 3 hours or so. He whistles in a way that I can't, like a kind of like you're calling a horse type whistle.
Any whistle, sure.
Yeah. And a quite younger gnome walks over. He says, "This is my boy. He'll take it over to the enchanter. It should, like I said, you come back in 3 hours. It should be ready."
I'll come back some point in the afternoon.
Okay, no problem. We close just after sundown, so long as it's before that.
Oh, we'll be long gone before that.
Okay.
And she inclines her head and says, "Taro, it's a pleasure."
Yeah, stop by anytime. Tell your friends, etc.
Will smiles and
he's already like working on a ledger, adding this sale in.
Yeah, Will smiles and heads out, and then I want to go to bookshops, but I think they probably have to be back in the Lyceum because I'm looking for essentially primers on all magic forms. So like couple of primer books on druidic magic as well.
You could find that here. That's one of the things that conversely would be cheaper in the Lyceum, though.
Yeah. So Will's like, okay, I got that. I'm gonna go. I think she'll probably pick up essentially just like some rope and stuff, because Keller doesn't carry an adventurer's pack or anything, and she's like, well, you should. I should have given you this stuff earlier, but like you've traveled with us, you don't get paid this kind of crazy money that I get paid. So she puts like some kind of like a bedroll, a blanket, all of this stuff into the satchel bag. To go in there later. But then I'm just gonna go buy a fuck ton of books.
Okay.
Like
that's easy.
Fill the whole thing with books.
There are, if you head back to our Sandalstown to the Lyceum, there are open air bookstalls. There are, like real bookstores, right? Like classical, like books overflowing, antique books kind of thing. There's like almost any book you could think of, you could find here, unless it's like crazy magic or,
So basically it's like Keller likes to read in a way that Will doesn't. And Will's like, okay, then I'll get arcane magic basic primer, arcane magic like an advanced thing, then the same for bardic, the same for divine magic, the same for druidic magic, all of this stuff that like Keller can do on her own time, particularly if Will is not around anymore. Like Will's thinking about like the potential of maybe not taking Keller going forward on the more dangerous things. So, and then also like just a bunch of other books. Like if there's somewhere that's selling like, hey, these books are like on sale because they have slight damage or something, then Will just goes, I'll buy all of them. And so she'll just get a vast collection of books like to put in the satchel for Keller.
Sure, I think I will just round all of that up. I mean, the magic books are the most expensive. That's probably like 500 by itself. Just a vast collection of other books. We'll just call it 1,000.
Sure. I will pay. Is it only 1,000? Okay, that's fine.
Books aren't that as expensive here as they are in other places.
Yeah. So I'll pay the 1,000 in gems over the course of time. If there's a currency converter in the Lyceum, which I suspect there probably is.
Yeah. Most of them
I'll
take
just
gems
trade-
straight out here as well.
I'll trade all my gems because they
It's-
don't necessarily have a bunch of small cost gems for magic books.
In smaller towns, like, it's hard to get them exchanged because, like, the price fluctuates a lot more. Like, everything's very steady here, and it's like, oh, this is a ruby, it's this big, it's worth this much. That's how much I'm going to give it to you. That's how much anybody in the city is going to give it to you.
Yeah. And then later, I guess, Will probably goes back out to the forum now that she's finished her business, and there's a place that does what is essentially a croissant pretzel that she used to come to all the time, and she gets like 6 of them and messages the other saying, "I'm free. Let me know where you are in the library." She will bring them croissant pretzels.
That's when
one
we
each.
zoom over towards the others. I also will say I missed the ROMs music. It's been a while.
Rams is great.
You guys find yourselves down at the docks. They're massive. They're bigger than the ones to Lampragon. There's like actively ships coming in and leaving by the dozen at any given point during the day. The docks here, there's a couple different setup docks, but I think the ones you're going to is with the main set of docks. It's all like long curved stonework with tons of stone jetties and moorings. Nothing here is wood. It's all stonework, which is fairly unusual, although much safer in case of fire. And it lasts a hell of a lot longer too. You guys find yourselves at the Mermaid's Tail. There's a as you're entering in the door, there's a a lot of ruckus and noise, even though it's only mid-afternoon. There's plenty of people, sailors really, day drinking here at this time.
So, Ron, what the hell did you bring me here for? To drink, or?
As you say that, a man gets punched, crashes through a table.
Well, a little bit of a drink, but this is the easiest way I can make sure my letter actually makes it home. Andrew,
Yes.
is the barman still the same barman that I remember from when I was docked here 5 years ago?
Yes. You don't think that this place changes hands very much. It's the barman who is also the owner, although I don't know if you would know that, but...
Sure. Fiverr at least would remember his name, most likely.
It's actually a very tall Gathite man who kind of towers over everybody else. And you imagine is the bartender by virtue of being the toughest, strongest person here.
Makes sense, honestly. Are you okay with, before we got here, I changed a couple of silver over into rum chits at like one of the, like there's a local
Sure.
stall or something in the wharf district, and
Yeah.
you change them over?
Easy enough.
Just walk up and just follow me. And Medea, you'd probably notice Alvaron has kind of the calmness that you've only seen with him when he's at sea. Walking into this bar. You and I just walk up to the front of the bar, and in kind of almost a ritualistic sense, I have the letter in my right hand and 2 rum chits in my left, and I put them both on the bar at the same time. Sliding forward. Andrew, do you have the... since it's a gap fight, I'll see to you. What's the bar owner's name?
I don't know if you would know that, but I will tell you their name is... because I wasn't expecting you guys to go to ROMs here. we'll say his name is Geldor.
But I probably don't know the name, you think? I probably, or at least wouldn't have remembered it from these years before.
Yeah, if you heard it, I don't think you would have remembered it, because you've only been here that one time, I think, or maybe twice, but...
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know the tradition. I know how to get a letter sent out. Just walk up, like I said, letter in the right hand, 2 chits in the left. Got a letter up to Menden, and I got at least 3 drinks before we ship out. Know anyone heading up north? And I slide the chits across along with the letter.
I want you to... this is not for how this guy reacts to you, but I want you to roll good die, bad die.
Good die, bad die? Okay.
As you're rolling that, the Gathlight bartender leans on the counter. He says, wait, what was that one for? Oh, okay.
Good
okay.
die, bad die, good die first, bad die second, or
Good
the
die
other
first,
way
bad
around?
die second. Yes. So you rolled very badly.
Okay.
He looks at you and he says, "Yeah, take your pick. About half the bar, probably." Kind of shrugs and points. There's a couple other Lamanish folk in that corner. Looks. He kind of thinks for a minute. He says, "I think they're from the Wayward Spear. Not a good ship name, but I think that's what it was."
I appreciate it. Look over at Medea.
He'll slide over 2 rums.
Perfect. Do the chits over and then make sure to grease with another silver and say, we'll probably be back. Just, for the tab so far and for tip.
He nods.
So,
As you turn to go and presumably approach these people, a couple sailors, probably pirates to Alvaron's eyes, kind of saddle up next to you guys, and they say, well, that's some fancy armor. As one of them kind of pokes, flicks at Medea's shoulder guard. Ding.
thank you. I had it made custom. Sitting here.
Custom made.
Yes.
You any good with that?
Alvaron is
Gestures
just
at your
watching this, by the way, just out of the corner of the eye. And there is a certain ritual to the letter and everything else. But kind of the way Alvaron has been in Medea's space before, Medea is in Alvaron's space right now, and Alvaron kind of wants to see how this plays out, but isn't going to let it get to the point of, felonious. That's the vibe, just
Sure.
letting you know.
Thea just says out loud, "Are you attempting to ask me where I got the armor? I'd be happy to give you the smith's name." A friendly man.
Kind of shrugs. You don't see too many people with armor like that out on sea, but it does look like it's worth something. Tell you what, how about you give it to me?
15,000 gold.
I was thinking you won't get punched in the face.
Could throw you across this room.
The other one kind of looks at you and says, yeah, I'd like to see you try to do that.
Okay, stand still.
They
Christ.
both look at each other like, what is with this person?
Thea stands up.
Alvaron just very intentionally tucks the letter into the armor. Just pat. And probably only Medea knows, just a little bit of a stretch right here.
Thea's
But
like,
Alvaron will say, "There with me. We're getting a letter delivered to a sailor's home. Not today, boys. Find a different mark." And Alvaron will pull out. How many are there? You said 2?
There's 2, but Alvaron, you're what, expertise in perception, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is two, but you can see there's very distinctly a nearby table with like 6 other sailors who are keenly watching this.
Tell you what, I say, looking at the sailors. I know the fight ain't worth it, and I'm trying to get a letter home for one of my boys. So, reach in and pull out 10 rum chits. How about I make sure these get into your boy's name, and we don't break any of this good man's tables today. I'll put them on the bar and like motion and say that they're going to that table.
Make a
Theo
persuasion
looks
check.
to Alvaron and then like gestures towards they were planning on throwing him in a direction that would avoid tables.
I was gonna throw him that way. Look, that table's already broken.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna throw
16.
them on that pile of guys that's already there.
Yeah. Throw them on the pile of dead bards. No offense, Will.
I think with a 16, one of the guys at the tables kind of says, "Boy, just take him up on the offer. We don't need another fight right now." The guy kind of grumbles and like looks at Medea and says, spits on the floor. Next time, he'll take the rum chits.
Normally pay people to be rude to you.
I pay people so I don't have to be rude to them. And I'm guessing. Sorry, what was the name? Something javelin, right?
The wayward spear.
Wayward spear. That's what it was. Just writing that down. What's the vibe they're giving off?
I think a couple, like, both because of the altercation and because like you guys look weird. Like, they don't get a lot of people rolling up in full plate, and like, Alvaron's armor is also quite strange looking. So like a lot of the bar has kind of clocked you guys and is like curious to see what you're about. Not all of them are as stupid as those two guys who were going to try to fight you. So they seem mostly like they're trying to keep to themselves. They're like a few cups in.
Gotcha. As I walk up, I'll just. Are they about my age? Older? Younger?
Mostly
What do they
older,
look at?
but that's not uncommon. They don't look like pirates. They look like rough and tumble sailors.
Gotcha. Just walk up, and as I'm walking up, I'll pull the letter out, and I've got it. Just pointed out. Medea, Alvaron slips into an accent that you haven't really heard him do in a while. Probably it sounds very much like how he was when he first got with everyone else. But walks up. How many are sitting at the table?
Like 5 guys. Assortment of people.
5 guys. Okay.
It's mostly human. There is one gnome amongst them, but they're all kind of just drinking. One of them
Gotcha.
looks up as you approach.
Walk up, and I hold the letter out. Not like I'm holding it out, but just kind of holding it up that, hey, this is the business I'm approaching on. And I've got at least 3 rum chits in my hands. Just, hey, fellas, I heard you're heading up north. Might be docking up in Mendon. I've got a letter to me parents I've been meaning to send for a little while. I was wondering if any of you might be heading up that way and could drop it. I've got the address.
Okay. One of the people who looked up to you, she will respond. She'll say, "Well, we are heading up that way soon enough. How much for the delivery?"
I was figuring I'd buy you all 2 rounds here and then grease it with, call it 4 silver for the trip up. There's another 3 silver in the letter upon delivery.
It's in the city.
Right in. You'll be able to find it, and I point onto it. There's a little bit of a stream bisecting the Temple District. If you ask in the Temple District where to find the family name, you'll get sent there right away. Won't take you more than 15 minutes out of port, and I know there's a good bar. right down by the side of the wharf.
Sure, why not? Assuming there's not a hard timetable.
I prefer the next month, but I know how the shipping lanes get.
We should. That should be doable. Maybe a little over, but month and a half.
This letter's getting there pretty late on my behalf anyways, so if it gets a little later on yours, I don't think Similis will mind.
I'm not gonna get nothing thrown at me, am I? Your mom ain't gonna toss a shoe at my head.
As I set the rum chits down, I say, "My mom might give you a hug, but try to forgive her that,
Okay. Sure, I'll take it.
I appreciate you." I slide the rum chits and the silver over and go, "Don't mind the sigil on it. I had to borrow it off of a friend." Then that's just because I know that the sigil is
They're fancy.
not Elrond.
They shove it in the pocket that women have that men don't. That sounded not what I meant. I meant in her bra. Sometimes,
Yeah.
The old meat
Sometimes-
wallet
Yeah.
trick.
sometimes I do not think before I start talking.
Also, I like that
He
she could
puts
have
it
just
in
had
her
a bag.
bra. No,
Absolutely could have had a bag.
I
he's not carrying a bag.
No, I like the first meeting. Really add something.
As soon as I started talking, I was like, "Wait, this
That's
is
what
not
the
going
good
to
guy,
this
the
spot."
good guy, bad guy was actually for.
Yeah, for
I'm-
my turn of phrase.
So, I'm so sorry to everyone in the chat who did not know
Oh
that
my
I laugh
God.
like that, but it's my curse as well as yours.
I'm just checking to see who's still paying attention. She puts it in
Since
her
they take it-
bra.
They take it so happily and everything, and I'll stop by with the barman and make sure that he knows to send another round over the table before you all head out. Thank you. And it's kind of just walk away. As we're walking out over at the Pirates, just a single nod of the head. I mean, for Medea, like just for Medea's sake, like Alvaron walked in here like he knew everyone in the bar and knew what was going on, and walked out like he did everything he intended to do and was okay with it. You've also probably never seen a letter be sent by sea that cost that much, but Alvaron was most definitely paying for the privilege of no questions, no bullshit, and
Medea, this
it's
is
going
like
to my
another
mom.
planet.
Go ahead.
To Medea, this is like another planet. They're watching this like a bemused tourist.
Gotcha. So as we're walking out, Alvaron's like, "Hey, I'm sorry about all the drama in there. It's gone a lot easier in the past, but family shit complicates it." And as you're talking to him, you can kind of see like he's returning to what you normally expect Alvaron to act like. The accent starts to drip away, and all right, to the library then.
Yes, I was hoping if that fight went well, I could hire them.
Unfortunately, their retainer is built in blood, not coin.
It's unfortunate.
Well, I've thanked you enough times for getting me out of my own predicament.
I
Anyways,
am going to the market today at some point. If you want to join,
do you want to do that before the library or after?
wouldn't mind. The library is something I intend to spend the rest of the day at once I go there.
Okay. To the market we go then.
Yeah, it's probably better that you loop around. So, yeah, you can go to the market. You probably don't end up in the same one as Will, just because of location-wise, but there's tons of markets here and there. Both of you are less familiar with ROMs. Go ahead and make an investigation check and let me know what you're looking for in general.
Is Alvaron trained in investigation?
I am not. No.
So I'll just roll this flat then.
Rolling still.
Oh, pretty good.
Okay. And what are you looking for?
Medea is looking for anyone that seems to be selling specifically polearms or anybody that is selling like enchanted holy weapons. Either way, just magic implements.
You find both as you're walking about. There is uh, a merchant who is selling arms in one of the many forums. It's not the forum, but it's a forum here in the city. And they seem to be a priest, priest of Parador, in fact.
Hmm. Is there a formal greeting for the followers of Parador, like some sort of acknowledgement of like, we was talking about it before, but like, I see this and I respect it, you know?
Yeah, there's kind of a I'm forgetting what the technical term is, but like a call and reverse sort of thing, like almost like passcode, where I'll just say with your religion is high enough to know this, given your expertise. It's like the shun. I can't talk today. I don't know what it is. The sun shines upon you. It's kind of the opener.
I have an idea for one as well, if you're willing to hear it.
Sure.
Is Parador associated with eagles or any birds of prey?
Yeah, at times.
I can see one of them being like, you make a whistle and the other person responds with the sound of an eagle.
Sure. Some people do that, certainly. Well, we'll
Yeah.
say.
You will make a short, loud whistle noise towards the priest and put their hand to their chest, pounding it in response.
I don't know how to do an eagle's roll.
I wanted to hear you make a bird
Great.
noise.
That's why you did this. That was the only reason. They'll respond to you. Say, so this is actually a dwarf. Long golden beard. He looks at you. He says, well met. How can I help you?
Looking for some fine arms or implements. Spent the day hunting. The other day hunting, and the other nights hunting. Spent too long underground and want something that will hold up.
He nods. Well, my kinsman, thank you for your travels. Kind of interpreting what you're saying to mean that you were in the dwarf roads and fighting. He says, I have a fine collection with me at the moment. These are, looks about, relics, magic items. As you know, clerics of Parador do not usually sell things, but we've rented out this space to pass along some holy arms.
Do you have any in particular that might catch the eye of somebody who spends time into the earth, or somebody who's looking for a fine weapon?
We have a few
Have the
that
money
give
to
off.
spend on something.
We have a few that give off light, if that is what you're looking for. He kind of glances at your spear, says, a fine weapon. I might be able to interest you, and he'll gesture. This is a spear of the sun, as they say. Kind of shows it to you. And he'll like wave it around. It's bright right now, so you can't really see, but he'll say, gives off bright light in a good sized radius, about 30 feet. And you can easily during combat, in between swipes and swings, flash the light to give off a blinding effect. Also, thanks for a minute. It is also, of course, enchanted to deal holy damage.
It would be valuable. I find myself fighting shadows more than I do anything else these days.
Well, if you're traveling the deep paths, I can only imagine. I've spent the last few decades up above in the light.
What did he say?
He just said, I've spent the last few decades up above in the light.
Do you have a particular asking price for this item?
Is well, if you he kind of quickly seems to cast a spell, like a very minor one. He says, you have a good aura about you. For this particular weapon, I would probably charge 10,000 gold. It is a very fine enchantment, but you and your companion have arms and armor that I thought such a price would not faze you overly.
No, not particularly. Besides that, do you carry any other javelins or implements, temporary tools, sages to pour on weapons, or
Thanks.
what's the term for it? Like oils.
You'd probably have better luck with an alchemist for oils. I have a number of throwing hammers, which are expended upon use. A few javelins, which I'm told pierce with the power of the sun. They are not as strong as this spear, however.
To look over the spear, can I make a religion check on it to see if I recognize it, or would it be an arcana check?
You could make either check. The religion check is going to give you different information, obviously, but
Yeah. He's not really, or they're not really interested in the quality of the enchantment so much as like, is this historically like, is this a weapon that exists, that kind of thing.
Okay.
15.
15. I think with a 15, you're kind of thinking for a little bit. You think that you've seen, if not this spear before, then an almost identical sphere in murals and maybe books with artistry for Parador, but you're not quite able to place like what the name of it is, or if it's the exact same spear or it's just a very similar spear. Maybe it's been designed to look like it, like another spear. I mean. You can tell that it is designed with symbology of Parador. It's got a bright sun emblazoned on it. The metal has like a kind of golden sheen to it. It's not made out of gold, but it's like steel that has like a yellowish kind of burnish when it hits the light. And the shaft of it is made out of a very pale white wood.
Yeah. Medea will ask and say, and how much would you charge for the javelins?
Well, they're pretty common. That's not his voice. They're pretty common. Probably 100 gold each.
I'll certainly take the spear and a few of the javelins. I'm always in need of more arms and implements.
He nods. How many javelins? So I know.
How many does he seem to have with him?
He has a bundle of 5.
Medea will buy all 5. So 10,500 gold?
Yep, for all of that.
Medea will take a big pile of gold out of their pocket and hand it over.
Gives it to you. Pretty easy. Good luck in your future battles.
If you do happen to know anybody who might know about demons and disappearances, I appreciate the knowledge. Talked to experts in another temple and saw some, but I figure Priest of Parador might know specialties about exorcists.
Well, supposedly, a couple months back in Vacant, there was a problem with a cult amongst the nobility, but it's been rumored that it's been stamped out since then. I haven't heard of anything in particular in the city of late. I'm afraid I couldn't help you with that sort of thing. Demons are a constant problem in the dwarf roads, as you know, but I'm sure you already know that.
Oh, I intend to head to the library, but I thank you for your knowledge. And as they turn around to Alvaron and they grip the spear and put it to their back, look to Alvaron and they say, "With all of this money, do you know what you're going to do with it when you die?"
Well, to be entirely honest, I hadn't exactly planned on dying, but if I do whatever I have on me, I figured a lot of you will find a way to spend it.
That's a good plan. And Medea, most very obviously, is writing it down in their head. I think actually they do pull out a little paper and they put it next to, like, very invisibly, there's this piece of paper and it's got Uba's response.
You
Um,
did.
I step forward to the library.
Okay.
Did I cut out?
Yeah, I heard you. It has Uba's response.
Yeah. They've got like a little, almost like a medieval version of like a legal notepad, and they've written down how Uba responded to the question similarly, and now they've got Alvaron's. And next to it, there's two blank names, and there's one that just says one for Will, and then one that says Kala. And then there is Silverin, but it's got like 3 underlines on it, and it's got more space than the rest.
I hope Medea is not secretly planning on killing us and taking all our money.
No, but like Medea becoming the notary public is not how I pictured this group going. Out of everybody,
I think you guys do get to the library. You know, Will is there very shortly after, and we will. I think we'll go to break. I'll see if Sylvain or Uba want to do anything, and then we'll do the library. But we will be back in 15 minutes. See you all in just a bit. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the second half here. Uba and Silverian, you guys are kind of spent the afternoon hanging around in Mel's Tower. Was there anything that you guys wanted to do in Telenphagon before everyone comes back later on?
Are we still planning on going to the Suthana's garden?
Yeah, I think that's where we've
Yes.
spent our time.
Right. Okay. Go ahead and make a survival or herbalist tools check, if as is your preference.
Meh.
And Silverin is just like helping out, pointing things out to Uba, to give them advantage on that survival check.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
maybe.
Uba is a little too hungover to be focusing as properly as they should be on this.
That's
I
fair.
think you guys have a very nice walk through the gardens, but there isn't a lot of interesting plants for what you're looking for here that you find. It's just, flowers, lots of very nice, very pretty plant, but nothing that you can use really that is significantly different from stuff you already have.
I got you.
Yeah. In that case, they just idle their time through. And once they've kind of done a full circuit and spent some time resting from Uba's hangover under a tree, Silverin will turn to Uba. And it just started storming real bad, so if my dog barks and makes very loud noises, I apologize. We'll turn to Uba and say, would you like any support? Like, it's like at that point where, the hangover has become, just like a constant that you almost get used to, but it's still, not great in the sunlight. Like, he's waited until it's no longer acute to offer this help.
Yeah, I think Uba will like dramatically thrust out their hand towards Silverin and say, if you wouldn't mind, that actually sounds like it would be pretty helpful.
Yeah, Silverin is going to cast Lesser Restoration.
Sure.
And when he does so, with just the two of them there, like looking down at like Uba's like outthrust hands, he just very like, it's not quite dramatic because there's still no facial expression, but he very deeply ducks and like offers his hands in turn to Uba, before like the shimmering energy envelops them.
I think Uba stands there for a second, feeling significantly better, and says, I always forget that you can do that. Kind of like shakes off the last little bits of the hangover. But there's nothing in the garden. Andrew, you said that we found of use. We're just kind of meandering.
Yeah, not really. I mean, there's lots of, like I said, very pretty plants, like fruits, stuff to eat, which you can pluck and do that, but not like plants that are super useful for alchemical purposes. At least not in the spots that you guys are naturally finding yourselves wandering to.
Gotcha.
Were you following up on that, Marissa? Or okay.
Oh, Charlie
Did we
froze.
lose Charlie?
I think we might have done.
If that's the case, then I'll say that Uva and Silverin have a peaceful outing at that point, but not very
Okay.
productive.
We can cut back if Charlie comes back soon.
Yeah, I was thinking of having another conversation, but we'll
Okay.
pause that for now.
We will then go to the ramen group. So you guys have all kind of convened back at the library. What are you guys looking for or interested in? We might be able to hear you now, Charlie. If you say something. Nope, you look
Charlie's
frozen
frozen
again.
again.
They're gone.
I wonder if the storm's messing with their internet. Anyways, we'll keep going with the library. Yeah, so you guys are in. It's this massive library. You can see rows and stacks of books, like going up, up, up. It's very kind of open planned, around a central dome, somewhat reminiscent of like the Library of Congress or libraries like that. So there's just like shelves all around you and this kind of central area where scribes are working, people are doing various different things, and there is somebody to greet you. It's a human woman, older, clearly a acolyte or priestess of Alamein. How can I help you today?
You say we arrived all at roughly the same time?
More or less, I think, Will, you're kind of coming up as this conversation is starting,
Okay.
but you guys' errands took about the same amount of time. Can I help you?
I mean, this is all happening around the same time.
Yes, they're talking to Medea and Al specifically.
Specifically, Alvaron will say, then, I am a humble sailor on a mission I do not fully understand. If one of your would the term wouldn't be master servants, would it be a scribe or a scriv?
Either of those would be acceptable.
If one of your scribs has knowledge of particularly sea monsters or daemons of a sea-based nature, I would be most grateful for their help in the research.
Certainly, we can arrange for someone. Is this what kind of, are you looking for academic tomes, a particular region of the sea?
More academic with specifics related to orders, perhaps, who have taken up study of the particular interests therein.
Of course, I will have someone come visit you, and she'll like pull out a color-coded swatch, basically, and hand it to you. They shouldn't be very long. Any other scribes or acolytes who could help you with an inquiry? This is probably around the time that Will has fully shown up, and it's like, oh, I see those people.
Term for like especially near the blight, what happens when like demons would raid towns, like demon incursions or like miniature blights?
Incursions. There's not necessarily a specific term for that, but yeah.
Do you have any books of record or history on the methods and commonalities between demon incursions between now and the blight?
I'm not sure specifically, but that's something that we might have in our disposal. If it's just a history book, a low-level demonologist come and assist you.
You happen to have some sort of as well more or greater series of tomes that would help one begin to get a grasp on the language of demons, their tongue.
We do have such things. They're typically restricted. Are you a member of the Lyceum or?
I have a seal from somebody who is a member, and they'll pull out Toralis's seal.
Well, we do welcome the sage and those who find themselves in his service or friends. Yes, of course, that could be arranged. Would you like a private reading room?
If at all possible, make sure that these two in my party can access me if they wish to speak there, but yes.
Of course. And she will start to arrange all that for you. A scriv acolyte who is wearing a robe with kind of a light blue band around it will find you, Alvaron, after a little bit and come to help you out with your task. Will, was there anything that you wanted to research while you were here?
Sure. Since the other two didn't seemingly need Will's help for anything, I will use the time to research the Astral Sea.
Okay, you just want to do that on your own, or did you want to ask for?
Yeah, I'll ask for help. I'll approach the
Yeah.
clerk.
Last two people. Everybody's internet's dying today. Yes, how can I help you?
Hello, I was just wondering if I could get some help looking for books about the Astral Sea and particularly the use of magic within the Astral Sea.
Yes, it's a not a overly common form of study, but we do have some tomes that you could peruse. I can actually take you there. You will follow me.
Oh,
And she'll take you
Yeah.
to this section that looks like an orrery. So lots of stars and everything here and there, and it's a smaller wing of the library. But there's lots of books on the astral plane, sometimes called the astral sea, detailing a variety of different information. You can make everybody can do this. Make a investigation check with advantage because you have somebody from the library helping you out to get the specific information you're looking for. Double six it is. Okay.
I was gonna ask if they could make the roll and I could give them bardic inspiration, and I was like, no, that's insane. I'll roll with advantage, and I just roll garbage.
You could have given yourself bardic inspiration.
No,
But Will doesn't
that's
really
not
do
how
that.
bardic inspiration works. It's not how bardic
Hey, you
inspiration
don't get
works. It's literally a
You don't
class
get to do
feature.
that.
It's a law bard feature at 14. Peerless
Oh, okay.
ability. I would
Yeah,
give
I
myself bardic
forget
inspiration
that.
sometimes if I was allowed to do that. But
I don't play with a ton of bards, so I forget how this works. Okay. Yeah, you find the other two can roll as well whenever you're ready. Did you have any other? Were you just looking at more like time shenanigans, or
yeah,
did you
the time shenanigans, because I don't know anything else about like what I would be looking into.
You find some books that kind of are talking about kind of what Toros explained, that the astral sea has kind of natural eddies where like time can be very funky. It's not like the Fey realms or some other places where like time is just different, or it just works differently. In the astral sea, it's like you'll hit a pocket and it's like a rift of energy, and it'll be like sometimes it'll be like 100 years passes in an instant for you. Sometimes it will be it takes 100 years before you kind of return to normal space or normal time. You're kind of stuck, kind of thing. And it's some people seem to think, or there's some theories in the books that you read that if you're in the astral sea physically, you can summon these warps and eddies and control them somewhat, although it's not a very developed field of magic, at least in the books that you find here. But it is possible, and some people have done experiments with that sort of thing.
Sure, I will inquire about getting paper as well, and I'll write it down in like. Will is innately drawn to writing it in like the arcane language of spells, so she'll write all of her notes in like her arcane ink for her spell book.
Okay, yeah, that's not an issue. Do we want to take 5 and hop out and hop back in?
Yeah,
See if that-
let's take 5 and shut down completely the Discord and see if that fixes it for everybody.
We'll be back in just a second. Okay. Hopefully we've fixed that well enough. The cameras will be a little wonky probably for the rest of the session, but it is what it is. It happens. All right. So then if Alvaron or Medea wants to make their investigation rolls. Again, you
Yeah.
have advantage because of the a scribe or acolyte is helping you.
Yeah.
Okay, and
I am still waiting on the full thing to load in,
no worries.
but
I'll do Medea first.
Hmm.
Yes, I mean, you find tons of information. Is there something more honed in I could give you?
Medea's looking for anything like specific, like telltale signs of a demon incursion, like what it looked like evicted, like after accounts, like what they saw, if there were different kinds or categorizations when they raided towns, and also just history of like, but was there like a pre-blight period where like there was only one or two towns disappearing before like it started to ramp up?
Okay. Yes, you do find lots of people have written about that kind of stuff, so you find tons of information about it. It's kind of changed over time. So obviously during the blight, it was like full out war. Everything was going wild. After that, it became more of a thing where demons would show up en masse because they've been hiding out in the mountains or forests or whatever. They would attack a village, sack it, take the stuff, and leave. And those were basically just remnants of the demon army, kind of still surviving out in the wilds, basically, more or less. During the pre-blight period, most of what was happening was kind of subterfuge. So demons would go in and try to make deals with people for power or other kinds of things, making promises, sometimes using magic to charm people, to try to get the town to convert, essentially to become worshippers of Saliel slowly over time, and have bases to then operate out of when the blight actually happened. And many towns did initially turn and help out the demons, help out the demonic armies. The dwarves didn't have that much of a problem with this, really, except for Harkantor, which was more like fully conquered. And the dwarves had been fighting the demons for a longer period of time before the blight. A lot of people theorize that that's how the elvish kingdoms fell. There used to be not ancient elves, Istar elf kingdoms in what is now Leman, but they were kind of fell because of civil war and strife, and there's a lot of speculation which can't really be proven after the fact that the demons played a really large part in causing that to happen because they didn't want to fight those powerful elvish kingdoms, the sort of high elvish kingdoms. So you read all about that. There is some mentions of like villages just disappearing wholesale that you find kind of reminiscent, but it doesn't really talk about. It's just chalked up like, oh, this was probably demons. We can't really prove that it was demons, but that's what we think happened, kind of things. You actually find some mentions or some theories that people think that there might have been demons in the astral sea who like caused the villages to become like completely wiped out, and so in the real world that was reflected as like them just disappearing, supposedly. There's lots of different theories. Some people think that like maybe these realms or these villages just accidentally were teleported to different planes. A lot of people think that the planar barriers were a little bit weaker around this time because of what the demons were doing and stuff like that. So that's kind of the information that you find.
I would know about the sentiment. Medea wouldn't, but Medea would then take their time to see if there's any way to like easily transit or like peer into the astral plane without having to like go there permanently.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some spells that do that. It is easier to do that via astral projection than it is to fully enter the astral plane in a more physical sense. Although even that is still pretty difficult. Like this is very high tier magic.
Yeah.
And it's
he's
I will say it's easier to take a group of people via planar transportation magic into the astral sea physically than it is to project a group of people with their astral selves into the astral sea. Individuals can do it a little bit more easily, but it's still difficult.
Medea will bring some of the information to Will at the end of the library session, but they're going to spend the rest of their time seeing if they can find anything else about, like, if anybody found out why they were bringing them into the astral sea. What the demons gained by doing that. Or whatever group was doing it.
Sure, you find Will kind of studying and ask about these questions. Will.
And they also talk about, like, their findings.
Sorry, I said hello. I don't
They
think you might remember
find
your
out, like, that... Okay, yeah. Medea says, I know you're doing your own research on it, but I found something that's common as demons occasionally drag entire places into the astral sea. Or at least some theorize happened during the war, and seeing as we're seeing demon activity begin to ramp up, I think this might be happening again.
Will nods, and like continues writing while turning attention to you and says, certainly would make sense. There's a lot of ways that demons who don't care quite so much about the natural laws of magic would benefit from being in the astral sea when the people they drag there wouldn't.
I think with this knowledge we should try and find some way to transit there, at least temporarily.
I think we should probably see what Torlus has to say, since we haven't heard from him yet about his capture and things he may have learned. But yes, it is a good idea after that.
I will attempt to see if there's any common ways they egress or ingress or signs.
Beyond the normal magics?
Yeah, see if they have any special methods.
Well, no, it's probable that they can. Most of the high level demons that do traverse the astral sea might be able to make rifts and things like that. But if you find anything particularly interesting about the magic of ways to enter the astral sea, I will be happy to take a look at it.
Medea will spend their time looking for it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll keep the 24. You do some more research. It's unclear because nobody's ever like stopped to interrogate demons really because it's like almost impossible. But some people speculate that Saliel is able to make demons in the astral sea, as well as, of course, like demon princes and Narangor could have the magic capable of casting plane shift or something like that.
Specific question, but in Imris, is there an equivalent of the Horizon Walkers, like people who deal with like planar disturbances?
Nothing so official or that like people know about really. But there might be individuals you'd have to ask.
Yeah, then I think
the other there's one other important piece of information you learn. Demons don't exist in both real space and the astral sea at the same time. Normal people do. Normal people have a footprint in both places. Always. Demons don't. Demons either exist in one or the other. They don't have that kind of connection kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, then I suppose that'd probably take up most of Medea's time finding this, so...
Alvaron, if you want to, if you're in now, it looks like you are. If you want to make that roll for your information.
For sure. And that is investigation with advantage.
Correct.
All right.
Yes, sir. 4 rolls. And you were looking for like orders that fight demons at the sea, is that right?
Essentially, information at all on Demons of the Sea, and then if there's any specifics, who deals with them.
Okay. You find information. I mean, like there's wastreliths and various different kinds of demons that mainly inhabit the seas, and a lot of them attack ships just for the purposes of disrupting trade. That's like what they were originally made for during the Blight. There's some really Leviathan type monsters that demon monsters that do exist down there. There aren't a ton of like orders that specifically fight demons at sea. It's a little bit more common as you're reading for orders which like already protect the sea to more generally to also fight these demons. So you do read a little bit about the Salt Knights of Samolis. So they are dedicated to fighting different kinds of larger monsters at sea that threaten ships. So sea serpents, if a dragon turtle is like getting too close to a port and has more hostile intent, other kinds of weird sea creatures that pop up now and again. The Salt Knights of Samolis often deal with those things. Sometimes they work with other groups like different acolytes of Quran, the god of commerce. So that's kind of like their thing. That's kind of the general information. If you have a more specific question, you might be able to find it, although you roll pretty poorly.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's essentially what I imagine Alvaron would be able to find out anyways.
Yeah, that's like
see if I can get my
easy enough
video to work.
Find information. Doesn't look like it did. But I think with that, you've kind of, unless there was something else somebody wanted to research with their new information, I think you're kind of getting up to where you're running out of time and need to go back and meet up with Torless.
Supposed to. You've probably slipped them a rum chit or two. He has no idea if this person knows what to do with it, but that's on them if they don't.
To the scribe?
Yeah.
Okay. They're like, they kind of think it's slightly interesting looking. They probably would know what it is because you went with like somebody specialized in sea knowledge. So I think they probably would. Although they're a little weirded out. They're like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to go down to the docks.
You gave them an obligation tip.
Yeah.
I give them a booklet about working seal.
Oh,
That's
Oh my god, you gave a chick tract? What is
No,
wrong with you?
I'm not paying a person that works at the Lyceum for doing their job. They don't deserve
Hold on.
tips. They get paid a lot.
This is an actual important question. Do y'all
Yes.
have chick tracts in Australia?
I don't think
No,
so.
but most of the things you say we don't have. We don't have tetherball. That's not a thing.
Running water or
No,
what's
only
internet?
the ocean.
Internet? Do you have
No.
internet?
That's
No,
I
we
think
have to
that's
have
quite
2
ironic to
barrels,
say
okay.
when
Do you have
have a
women yet?
camera.
Hold on, wait. Is my camera not
No,
presenting?
Sean's camera is working again.
It is now, but it
It's
wasn't for
probably
a bit.
me thing.
Andrew had like clicked back.
The technology of taking out your rib make it to Australia yet?
No, the joke I would normally make about American stuff is in bad taste in particular today. But,
I was waiting for it. I knew.
but I won't.
It's the joke that
Make
everybody
that
goes to be honest.
But today
Because
is a safe day.
I could make a joke about how you're like so garbage in education, right? Like, I could make that joke.
You could make that joke.
Anyway,
Have a
Or
related
health
joke.
care.
Anyways,
Muddy words to speak
you guys
upside
finish
down.
your trip to the library and head back to
I
Torless.
go pick up the bag.
Yes, you pick up the
and
bag.
I put all the garbage in it that I bought that wasn't for me.
Kind of transfer it over all into there. You all see that Will has bought a very nice backpack style bag.
I would like it to be like a satchel, like a side satchel,
Okay, sure.
Instead
So
of-
it's side satchel
and
style.
slightly smaller for Will than it needs to be, because it's for a child.
Right.
I was going to say I'll put it in my bag of holding.
Yeah. Don't do that.
I won't do that. I'll
That's a
blow
good
up
way to
Rams, that's
switch
fine.
characters. Just kill yourself.
It's one way to get into the astral sea.
I don't think so.
Oof.
I think parts of you get there.
Just a black hole forms. Torless is kind of just waiting around. He seems to have gotten a some different things. Spell book. He kind of freshens himself up. Probably went cut his hair either himself or went and got it cut. So he's looking a little bit trimmed. Did you find everything that you needed? He says that gently to everybody.
I think if we answered that question yes, we would not have the curious minds required to be adventurers.
Hmm.
But
Well,
yes,
good then. Let us head back and get on with things. He'll walk up. He skips the line. What line there is? He's like, "Hey, I'm Torless' sage, guys. I'm gonna go ahead of all of you."
hey, I'm a celebrity. When we get there, we'll say, "Do you mind if I'm still learning to get the spell right? Can I cast it?"
Go ahead.
I trace out the circle, and the rolling of the sea is more sea-like than it was last time. Will is trying to get the rolling of the sea as perfect as possible. That's what she's working on. And it does do that like stomach lurch as you come out.
Do we have to make another con save?
Well, you do. The two seafaring people don't. I guess
We
I'll have
come out
Torless
doing a
make one.
jig.
Torless isn't very good at that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make Torless throw up. No.
He's okay. He does like. That's one way to teleport.
I tried to really get the up and down motion.
I think you've accomplished your task. All right. Well, to dinner.
Praise from an authority figure. That's Will's language of love.
You
Just for you, Sean.
dropped.
Excuse the fuck out of me.
Medea keeps their lunch. That's the important part.
Yes, that is the important part.
I think Uba and Silverin, you spent your time in the garden, so you're like, there at the palace already for by the time that dinner is starting to roll around. Switch back. You guys. Oh, sorry. You wanted to have a thing with Uba and Silverin, right? Before things got wonky.
If Charlie is still there, maybe. But
I
if
am
not, it's
here.
not the end of the world.
I am. Well, am I here? Am I?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Do you wanna try? And
Things
if you
seem
get
to have stabilized a little bit. Like they
Yeah,
can
and the
listen.
storm's calmed down over here. If not, we just assume that Silverin just started looking off long into the distance.
Okay. If that's the case, so I imagine that they're kind of like, sitting in the garden, just relaxing, waiting for dinner time. And I think Uba is like maybe has like a plant that they're just kind of like picking the leaves off of and maybe eating them. I'm not sure. But they stop for a second and say, Silverin, I have been wanting to ask you, how did you learn so much about medicine and poisons? I've been thinking, I've been to your village, but still don't know a whole lot about it. And then they look a little bashful at asking such a personal question.
Silverin so closed off that how did you learn things is a personal question.
Yeah.
Silverin huffs a little. Well, I suppose I do know some things. For context, how old are you, Uba?
Uba, I think Uba's gonna huff because I feel like they probably talk about this a lot. But I think, if my notes are correct, I believe that Uba turned 19 during our adventure.
Oh,
Uba is
did-
baby.
Did Uba declare like when they were turning 18 or not, that they were like that they had that birthday?
I think I said, because it was like almost a year ago, but it was on my actual birthday. I said that it was going to be Uba's birthday too. So
Okay, so Uba said that.
yeah,
Because in that case, Silverin, failing mind, and he like taps his own head and he says, "It's something that you learn with time. You met young Caro in the village, yes."
Uba thinks for a second and says, "I'm not sure if young is the correct word, but I think so."
From young Caro and the previous bird speaker, I learned what I know today. And when I was a few years younger than you are now, I learned more from young Caro and myself. And years have passed since then. So mostly it is the accumulated detritus of age. Um, I have learned probably more in this last year with you and the rest than in all the time before it. And you? Where did you
I
learn to hunt so well?
I think Uba's a little surprised that Sylvain is rebuffing with asking personal questions, but says, "Oh, well, I learned in my village too, but it seems like my village was pretty different from yours. My mom taught me how to hunt, and my dad was a butcher, so that worked out pretty well. But uh, I don't know. It's just something that I was taught as, when I was younger, and just never decided to do anything else." Um, and they kind of sit there for a second and say, "I think you might actually like my village, but like I said, it's very different from yours. It's louder." And then they kind of laugh.
I would enjoy visiting it. I would accompany you as you have accompanied me. It might be difficult to find lodging in such a place.
Uva laughs and says, "To be perfectly honest, I don't think you would fit into my parents' house, but I'm sure we could make do." Um, and they kind of hesitate for a second, like they're going to ask something else, since I think they decide to drop it. But say, "I appreciate all of your knowledge that you've shared with me so far, and looking forward to learning more." And then they stop, like, at the fact that they said they were looking forward to learning new things, but trip it off and keep picking at their plant that they've been holding.
It has been a mutual trade, as is everything in a tribe.
Uba smiles and says, "I guess that's kind of what our group has become now. Probably one of the strangest tribes I've ever seen, but that's definitely what it is."
Silverin just leans back slightly, and I think after that point, he just kind of grunts his usual acknowledgement and doesn't say further.
Yeah, I think Uba will just sit in the silence, maybe occasionally uh, give Kojin a little piece of plant to play with, but that's it.
A little bit later, maybe 20 minutes, half hour or so, an attendant finds you. They say, uh, "My lord Uba and Solarin, your companions have arrived for dinner. Suthana is awaiting your presence." Mercy, you muted.
Sorry. Uba kind of like jumps off the bench and is like, "Oh, dinner, yes, finally, let's go," and kind of like is like hustling Silverin along.
Silverin lets himself be hustled.
Yes, so you all, whether via magic circle into the palace or by walking through the gardens, you find yourselves at a dinner table that is in the palace. So Susana is there, as well as Kala and Kella. I think Melf declined to join unless somebody wanted him there specifically. The Sultana thanks you all for coming again. There's a spread before you, lots of very fine foods, a roast duck, a number of different tarts and pastries, a nice quiche for those of you who like such things, and of course, plenty of drink, water, wine, juice, etc. Thank you all for coming again. It will be good to hear your story more in detail. Told me the broad strokes, but I wouldn't mind hearing the full tale. And then I think she kind of glances at Torlus. You had some other things to discuss tonight. But she looks around, wondering who's going to tell the tale in full.
I think Will, who has put her coat into her bag of holding, so is just wearing a red dress with like relatively thin shoulder straps, and on her left arm, the where it would be bearskin, instead it's just rolled up silk, the white silk of her spellbook that wraps around her finger. She kind of clears her throat and says, "Well, let me tell you the tale of Harkantor." And we'll tell it as if she is a traditional storyteller. I'm not going to do it because we just played it recently.
Yeah.
And I didn't prepare that. But she like launches into it in a way that is more reminiscent of like Uber storytelling, where it is heightened in places and it's like dramatic intentionally. Do you need me to make a performance check?
If you would like, I know you have. You could just use your base level, which is pretty good, but although you don't have expertise, so
I don't, because it's an insane thing to expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I will roll it.
yeah,
25.
25.
Yeah.
Like Will becoming Willow mid-story.
It's an amazing retelling. Uba would definitely be proud of all of the embellishments and how the flourishy it is.
How good Uba looks in it.
How
That's
good Uba
important.
looks in it. Yeah, that's it. And you tell us as you're eating, and so there's like you'll tell a section, they pause a little bit to eat, etc. So by the time
everybody else will fill in the blanks where that was embellishment, like the truth.
But by the time you've finished, you've also finished dinner, more or less. At which point, Torlus will then kind of stand and say, well then, to the business of the realm. I know that you all had questions for me, things that you want to ask, information. I am at your disposal here now.
You remember what?
Torlus, do you know what has become of Vestavale?
I have a suspicion, a strong one. I have not seen Vesta for even before my imprisonment. It had been some months, though we didn't keep in that regular contact. We adventured together once upon a time, a long time ago, when both of us were much younger, her in particular. They had been investigating into the astral sea, into problems that had arisen there. We assume Saliel's hand had reached into that place and started to enact upon the people. Strange things had begun happening across Imris, some of which I think may have affected you, if what Kala has told me is accurate. strange, uncurable diseases that cannot be affected by even clerical magic, disappearances, villages going missing, stranger things even, warps in time and odd dreams in the night, some all too real, leading to unexplainable deaths. A new phase in the war that we adventurers fight between the demons. My master once told me that the greatest lie amongst historians of this age is that the blight ended. It just changed. I might be able to help you. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I make a history roll to try and know anything about his master?
Sure.
Can I make a history roll about the veracity of that statement?
Sure. Okay. I'll do Medea's first because it's a lot lower. I mean, you're not sure what information he might have that you don't. If he's just referring to the fact that like demons never went away completely, that's true. Although obviously there's far fewer in the last couple centuries than there was during the blight, kind of thing. But like I said, he might have information that you don't have access to. He might know about things that have happened that you don't. Will. So you know, Troilus the Sage had many teachers, amongst them Melfindian, of course. They had a relationship not unlike what you guys have with Melfindian currently, although like some decades back. But his master proper, the person who in histories about him was his first teacher, was the head of the Lyceum. This is probably about 100 years ago or so, when this person was most famous. His name is Jaloff. Sometimes he's called Jaloff of the Arcane, sometimes Jaloff the Magnificent, sometimes in certain texts, of course, head of the Lyceum is a title, but Jaloff, the Chronomancer. And I'll take that out if you. He was actually a gnome.
Okay. I took 2 shots at spelling that in my notes, so I'd know how to pronounce it. I got them both wrong.
I'm probably not writing it in the most phonetic way possible, but I spell.
All right, we'll just wanted to know that. I don't mention it.
I, of course, if you are looking for Vesta, I can aid you going to the Astral Sea. It's dangerous, but it can be done.
Will nods and says, I think it has been far too long that I've left my master unattended to save another master. But this adventure has prepared us for the Astral Sea.
He nods. The Astral Sea is dangerous, in some ways more dangerous than Arcantor, in that its very essence is strange. And as I was explaining to you earlier, you can get trapped in a pocket of time, find yourself aged, younger, find that many years have passed in but a second, or that a second for us has been many years. These are extremes, but monsters look there that are greater. Dreams come alive. It is a very strange place, and not one which is easily walked by mortals.
Hmm.
I have spent some time preparing almost that exact thing without knowing it.
I can also tell you that I think that there are, by protecting the book, you have protected Imris quite greatly. Though I do not think that the demons will give up their attempts to convert dragons to their cause. And I will look into things, though
Hmm.
I always have faith that there will be adventurers where they are needed. Is there any other information I could offer you? I think that was the biggest piece that I wanted to talk about was the danger in the sea of magic, as they say.
You know if the demons have any other stronghold near the surface? Or do you have an idea where we might go when we transit into the astral plane to begin our journey?
He kind of thinks for a moment. Talonflon, I can't talk today. Talonfagon is as good a place as any to begin. One thing which I neglected to mention, although you might have read about this or known already, is that in the astral sea, travel and distance is also funny, different. You can cross the land at greater speeds, much like in a dream. You can move about freer. You could go from Talanfagon to Roms in a couple days on foot. It is strange in that manner. So it matters somewhat less where you begin and somewhat more how you are looking.
Do you have any?
Hmm.
Do you know where we might find some divining tools to make navigating this place easier?
I have some that you might be able to use, and he kind of looks at the Suthana. Perhaps some scrolls, and if your Majesty might be able to help as well. She gives us a small nod. Some things will rely on your own magics, though. There are only so many things you can bring with you. And, there are some things that only your mind can pierce through. Some traps, camouflage. He shrugs.
I think that Uba is gonna like raise a claw really quickly, almost like they're like raising their hand in class. And then says, yeah, so about this plan, I think it sounds good, but I have to say I personally have never been to the astral plane before. It sounds pretty weird. Is there anything that we can do to protect ourselves, stay sane, not get stuck? Because, like, I don't think I want to spend longer here than I have to.
Well, the simplest way would be through an astral projection spell, but that is amongst the height of magic. I cannot easily cast it on my own, save through a scroll. We could attempt to locate one such, but he kind of glances at this Donna, who shakes her head. We do not currently have one in our possession.
Uba
Uh,
looks severely unnerved.
There are, of course, spells and enchantments. He kind of glances. I know Medea has some ability to aid you all in natural fortifications against such spells.
I can also help against anything that would terrify or charm us.
And anything that breaks the mind, at least with fear, so long as you are next to me, cannot reach you.
Hmm.
The best spell that I can think of would be Mind Blank, but I could only cast that on one person a day at most, and it lasts a full day. It is only a full day.
Would you have it prepared in a scroll?
I could, given enough time, but you would be limited in access. It would take me. I could prepare one given about 2 weeks' time. If you wanted to wait for all of you, that would be some months.
I think we ought to set out soon.
Nods in agreement.
If they have seen their dragon defeated and their city raided, the next portion of their plans are likely to go in action sooner than expected.
Unfortunately, I must leave this task to you. I have been away long, and there are many pressing matters to attend to. Some not as dire as this, but many coming to close import. He glances at Will. This is closer to you, and I would entrust the task to your group should you take it.
Nods and says, well, I hope that the rest of my crew will join me, but I will venture the Astral Sea regardless. If you are not with us, how will we leave the sea?
I can provide scrolls of plane shift. None of you are capable of casting such magics. I have a number of those. I find them very useful. Journeys, studies. They are a bit easier to make than the mind blank scrolls.
We will be significantly reliant on one of our members to get us back.
Yes, I would. He looks at Will. I would protect those of you who are capable of casting the spell at all cost. I can provide you with 4 scrolls now. If you give me a week, I could make another.
I think 4 is sufficient. I'm going to roll an Arcana check about plane shift. 1 billion.
Yeah, so let me. You know
I'm pretty
the
sure.
plane shift spell.
I'm pretty sure Sovereign can also read that scroll if something does happen to me, or if something
Couldn't-
happens to Sovereign, as can I.
You know,
Couldn't Alvaron also do it?
he could. It would be
Alvaron
very
could.
difficult for him, given his lower casting stats. But yeah, he could.
Yeah.
It would be funny in an emergency.
In an emergency where Will and Sovereign are both dead, Alvaron
Yeah.
could read.
Yeah, I mean, out of game, you could use one to get there, and then have everybody who can cast it with a scroll.
Have one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Can he cast the spell to get us there?
Yes, he can. So he could do that as well. Actually, hold on.
It takes him there as well, so he'd have to probably use a scroll to get back.
Yeah.
So it would take us down to 3 scrolls. But it guarantees that first cast.
Yeah, because he can only
Yeah.
cast that spell once a day.
Yeah. But it guarantees the first cast, so we're not wasting a scroll there if
Yes. Well, yes, and he can just auto cast it because he has the spell.
Well, if he has a 7th and 8th level slot, he could just cast it twice. And only pick
But
himself
yeah,
up
that's
at
true. He could just upcast it. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so no, we could keep all 4 scrolls.
Also, the Warp Anchor doesn't care about planes of existence, according to its wording.
Yes.
So
Oh, that's good.
So-
That's good.
none of that's relevant because we can just take the Warp Anchor and give the other half to somebody. Good job, Warp Anchor. Best item that we've ever gotten in any game.
Yeah, it's a pretty excellent item.
That's not true. I got a vastly better item that Andrew nerfed. Will says, all right, then I have one question. And she kind of opens it up to everybody. How soon can you be ready to leave?
On your word.
My bag is upstairs.
She looks at Alvaron and Uba.
Uba sighs super heavily and says, "Oh, I'll pack up the rest of my things."
Alvaron doesn't have many things to pack up. He's ready to go.
Will says, then we should leave tomorrow morning.
That works for me. We have people to say goodbye to, but otherwise,
I've concluded my business. I'm ready to go.
I'll give the other half of the warp anchor to Kala, which serves largely as Will saying to Kala that she is not coming.
She looks at you and she kind of sighs.
I just assumed that you had things to do with Torolus. You have an apprenticeship to return to?
Yes. Don't die or leave, get lost.
Age 100 years and become a desiccated skeleton?
Yes, or do that.
Be fine. I'll teleport back to you if I'm about to become 1,000 years older. And the rest can deal with themselves.
If you need me, just message.
Will nods, and then kind of glances at Keller. But I think Will still bring Keller. If you're going to get an education in magic, the Astral Sea is the place to do it.
Kel's like, yeah, I get to go. Kel frowns and is like, are you sure? You could stay with me.
Yeah, I want the teaching to be done well.
Well, I can't think of a more experienced adventurer at a younger age.
I feel like she should have a level by now.
She might be level 1 by now.
I feel like she's a rogue, right?
Well, yeah. She might be statted significantly, but she's definitely not a rogue, at least not level 1.
Yeah, like, Will is still her teacher and is, like, a magic user.
I was gonna say arcane trickster is what came to mind.
Yeah, I think Will's tutelage has, like, been mainly around arcane fundamentals, so...
That's fair. Yeah.
The Suthana says, once again, you set out to perhaps save the world. If there's anything you can think of in between tonight and tomorrow, let me know.
If I could trouble you to use your considerable influence to go source some scrolls for me, I'll give you 5,000 gold.
You have taken up many of
Not your own
our
scrolls, just send a
supplies,
servant
but
to use your name.
sure. We can procure for you some scrolls.
Great. Just a selection. They'll come in useful eventually. Except for this one, and she like picks it up and it's like hang on, I've got some full garbage things in here. It's like a scroll of alarm. I should just copy this into my spell book, really. Is alarm a sorcerer spell? I'll give it to Alvaron. Chromatic Orb's a sorcerer spell. I'll give that one to Alvaron. You're like, yeah. It can be your first ever scroll. You don't even need the giant gem that it requires.
Ramona, did you want to do that in private later?
Yeah. Just
Respond.
like a timeline. Okay. And then the other thing is, during the downtime, I also wanted to ask about scrolls. Is there any way I could get some scrolls of protection from good and evil?
Yeah, that's what, a second level spell?
First level.
Yeah, you could do that easy. Those are like 50 gold a pop or something like that.
And scrolls contain the consumable portions, right? Like they already have it quote unquote paid off.
What do you mean?
Yeah, you don't need the material components if you're
Correct,
reading from the
yes.
scroll.
Yeah, it includes it. Oh, that costs something, right? Like,
Yeah, 25 GP.
okay, there's 75 then.
Yeah, Medea will grab a few of them as well.
Okay, yeah, you could buy as many as you want. It's a first level spell.
Before we leave, could Uba also say, I can't imagine that the food on the astral plane is very good. Is it possible I could go to the kitchen and pick up some rations?
Lord Uba, you can have whatever you can get the chefs to make you.
There's a glint in Uba's eyes, and they bow.
Probably a mistake.
Can we roll insight on Uber?
Oh my
We're
god.
gonna end up with 85 lobsters, and that's all. Like,
That's actually the only thing we're allowed to eat while we're
10
there.
pounds of filet mignon.
A second. How much would a scroll of 8 cost?
That's second level, right?
hmm?
10
Uh,
pounds like is Uba for one meal.
That would be
Yeah.
200 gold pieces.
Okay. Stocking up on potions because it's good to have them. Not potions, columns.
Torlis does say, and again, if you have any other things you want to ask me about anything before you leave, I'm at your disposal.
Oh, you mentioned that there are incurable diseases arriving from the astral sea.
Yes.
Do you think is there something I should look out for to try and work out how to cure them?
I
Or will
would
it-
I would strongly suspect that if you go to the place where the disease is occurring in the astral sea, you will find the source of that disease and be able to cure it. It will probably be in the form of some dark magic malevolence. It might appear as vines, evil plants, an evil creature. It might even be a demon itself. You should be able to see not when people are dreaming, they exist more fully in the astral sea. You could see facsimiles of them and even converse and speak. When they're awake, there's a wisp, almost a tether. You can almost see their impression. If you could go to that place, that is where I would begin to look. If nothing else, you should be able to trace it back to its origin.
Will nods and says to Sultana, if your servant can find some blight scrolls within that, if it is a plant of some kind, that spell will be very useful.
Of course.
I have no further question.
Hmm.
I think Uba has one more final question and says, just to make sure, what happens if we die on the astral plane?
Hmm.
Well, you die.
We don't get stuck anywhere. It's just the same as here. Could be brought back.
You can be brought back. It is said that if you die physically in the astral sea, it can be harder for your souls to enter into the proper planes. They often get swept up in the magic, but if you use the normal spells quickly enough before the soul leaves the body, it is not an issue. But the types of resurrection magic that are associated with longer times since death, those can fail sometimes if the soul has already been swept up. It is more dangerous in that sense.
Uba makes a mental note to not die on the astral plane.
Speaking of souls and their severance from the body, exist there any totems that would keep a soul bound?
Because you would know more of that than I. You might speak to the other priests of Mordain.
Can I make a religion check on the question Silverin just asked?
Sure.
Can I also make a religion check while saying to the Suthana, also some scrolls of gentle repose? That might help.
Yeah.
I was a 19 for such a long time.
It's nice because last level I finally took Spare the Dying, which I had never taken.
Nice of you to care about us.
More like Spare the Crying.
Yeah, gentle repose would prevent that from happening for sure.
Yeah, I think Will just knows that spell exists as a wizard. And it's just like,
Yeah.
well, Gentle Repose will deal with this.
I think Taurus is assuming you're asking for something else because he assumes that some of you know about that already.
25 on the totems.
Yeah, there definitely are charms which essentially are almost like a more permanent form of Gentle Repose. Like if you place it on the body, it will keep the soul bound to this body.
Like a version of Ring of Mind Shielding, right?
Kind of. They're considered a little bit
taboo.
It's a little bit like a double-edged sword, right? Because if your whole party dies and you're wearing this, your soul's just trapped there for fucking ever, and you can't ever pass on.
Whoever finds it and gets bored.
Right, and but certainly people make them for instances like this where like you're worried about souls being taken out.
So 25, would I know what kind of church or priests would have them?
You would probably talk to a priest of Mordain or somebody skilled in necromantic magic.
Any friendly? What is there a term for like white mages that know necromancy magic?
Not a specific term. There's just like there's just even with enchantment and stuff like that, it's like there are spells that are bad, there are spells that are not bad because of their use.
If you were looking for that, some enchanters that work with necromancy would certainly have them, Silverin. They're not exceptionally rare, and there's some taboo. They're made.
I will confine my questions to those that lay the dead to rest.
Do you know where to go about an entire missing group of people in the astral plane?
This is more difficult. My advice would be similar: to start where they last were and trace them from there, track them. Tracking is a little bit different in the astral plane, but it can be done by someone skilled in those arts.
Fester Vale is in the astral sea, and we recover her. Whatever knowledge she's gained, unless it's been the blink of an eye for her, will be useful in any other endeavors, I suppose.
She will be a navigator if we can find her.
Well, I think Will thinks back to times on the ship where Vesta just like had no concept of where they were in the ocean. Like, sure.
He's one of those people that gets lost.
Navigator's how I've always thought of my master. Although I never thought of her as my master until she was gone.
One word of caution. Though it might be tempting, you should refrain from entering into another's dreams. Dreams are formed as pockets in the astral sea, and they can be very dangerous. You become at the complete mercy of that individual. They generally don't know you're there, or will not realize.
Don't enter dreams. Unless they're super
nobody has any questions. I do need to lay down pretty soon.
Yeah, I think we're gonna end right here. Feel free to message me if you think of other stuff as well. But well, I will leave you to your preparations. But again, I'm at your disposal should you think of anything. I will prepare and gather the necessary scrolls, and we will meet here on the morrow. That is where we're going to end today's session. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Sucks about the weird camera issues, but we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Boy.